Hello, everybody. Welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Friday, the 12th of September, 2025. I'm CareyHolzman, and welcome in, everybody, joining us in our live chat. We got a quick shout out to our friend Buster out there in Scotland with a pre-show super chat as a Amazon gift card, and as well as our friend out there in Northern Ireland, Mark Gaines, with a Amazon gift card here just prior to the show starting. Thank you guys so much for your continued support, and to all our members in green joining us live in the chat room. These are all folks who make it possible for us to continue making these videos without any sponsors. So not to confuse you, but today we have a Nimo laptop. You've been seeing several of these on the channel lately, and quite frankly, there is no other reason for it other than they're willing to send us the laptops under no condition, provided we give it an honest review. No money exchanges hands, and they're assembled here in America. They have a 2-year warranty extendable to 3 years if you fill out a registration card. They have a 90-day return policy if you buy directly from them, and they sell bare bones versions of their laptops so you can put your own RAM and solid state drive and operating system on them, which makes it such a unique offering, and I don't really see them much around. So I thought, what a great win-win-win situation for the folks at Nimo to get the attention they deserve, for us to get the content, and for you guys, the viewers at home, not only to receive the content, but also to be aware that there are buying options available that you may not have realized, because these things are very aggressively priced. Furthermore, they keep introducing more and more new models. And I'm just amazed, I'm blown away by the frequency with which new models are coming out. So we're going to take a look at this particular model today. This is the first time I've seen it. I've done no rehearsals, there's no research. Everything is done live and unscripted as always. And the tape on the box is sealed, and we're going to unbox this and experience it together live on camera. And yeah, this is supposed to be a gaming laptop. Now, you know, people throw that term around, gaming PC, gaming laptop, and it has so many different definitions. This is a middle-aged human. I mean, that tells us really nothing about the person. So in much the same way, there are many different definitions for what a gaming computer is, depending on the individual and what their budget and expectations are, the kind of games they play. Whether or not they need to play on the go, right? They need a gaming laptop, something they can take with them, or they're looking for something that doesn't take up a lot of desk space, doesn't eat up a lot of power, and depending on the games they play, it could be overkill for some of these games, or many of the games. Like retro gaming would be nothing for a machine like this. But then you have also esports games, which are relatively lightweight, and then you have MMORPGs. And you have some of the classic games that people still play today. What's fascinating to me is this new generation of gamers doesn't refer to themselves as gamers anymore. They'll refer to themselves, and this is a trend I'm seeing, which I think is probably going to get more popular. They align with the game they play. So if they're playing Fortnite, then, you know, I don't know what the term is, but they're a Fortniter, for lack of a better word. If there's one game that they connect with, and instead of saying I'm a gamer, they say that they are, you know, whatever the name of the game is, as a player, as an enthusiast of that specific game. And while that doesn't necessarily mean they don't play other games, that is their go-to. That is their, you know, the one they keep coming back to, and it's not just trying to get to the end of a game and then move on to the next game. This is a game that you can continue to play over and over and over with different outcomes every time. And I'm finding that quite interesting, because that would certainly make it a lot easier to know what kind of computer to buy. So if, for example, we said this was a Fortniter computer, there's got to be a better word than that. But you understand what I'm saying, and somebody plays Fortnite and goes, oh, that's a good machine for that, right? What resolutions can I play it under? And what features and options can I turn on, and what's my frames per second? That's something we could measure specifically for that game. With over 100,000 games available, it would not be possible for us to go through even 1% of that and still have a show that lasts under a day. So the reason I don't do any sort of gaming benchmarks is the likelihood of you playing any particular game is likely due to a fad. Something just came out, it's all everybody's talking about, and 6 months later, everybody's forgotten about it, but my video stays up indefinitely showing benchmarks to a game nobody's interested in anymore because that's so 6 months ago. So what I try and do here is encourage you guys, if you're interested and you're curious about what kind of performance you can get out of any gaming computer, you need to look at what the graphics card is and then just do some Google or AI searches on benchmarking that particular GPU, whether it's a discrete GPU or whether it's internal. What you're going to be looking for, what I would recommend anyway, is the particular benchmarks that apply to the game or the genre of game that you play. Then you can determine, is that enough? If you're playing Microsoft Flight Simulator, you know you're not going to do that with a $500 computer. Not reasonably. You know that. So if you're looking at a $500 computer even wondering, shame on you. I mean, come on. You should know better. At the same time, if you genuinely don't know, it's really not that much effort to just look at the make and model of the GPU. Whether it's built onto a CPU or not is irrelevant to get an idea of where its range is, because they all run within the same range. Every one made is the same, regardless of what manufacturers put it in what mini PC or what desktop or what laptop. They're all using the same chips. So they all run within the same specs. One is not going to run better than another one, not by any measurable difference that matters. And certainly nothing that a skilled player couldn't just continually win at that game with lesser hardware, because they've done something where they're not paying to win, but their hand-to-eye coordination and their strategy in the game is such that with enough experience and enough practice, you can outplay anybody regardless of the equipment you play on. No different than a chef can make you a masterful meal with the cheapest pots and pans or the most expensive pots and pans. A professional photographer can take a very good picture regardless of how cheap the camera is. A piano player can play you a beautiful rendition of a song, or a tune. Let's just call it a tune. And it wouldn't matter if they were playing on a Casio keyboard on display at the department store or on a Yamaha grand piano. It's one of those things where the focus tends to be on the tools, but not on the person operating the tools. I can get some really great power tools, fascinating, powerful power tools. But if I don't know how to use them properly, it's probably not going to make me a better mechanic or a better at accomplishing my projects. So a lot of gamers, what I hear a lot online is the gamers think that they can just pay to win, that they can just buy higher end hardware, and therefore they don't have to have any actual skill in the game. And the truth has never been further from the truth. Skill will always win out over the tools. And having the right tools with the skill can give you that advantage. However, if you had a choice between spending all this money for a fancy tool or just investing your time to enhance your skills, enhancing your skills is where I'd recommend you start, because you might find out you don't need that high-end system after all. But maybe I sound like an old man, but that's just the way we used to do it. Go to the arcade, you plop your quarter in, everybody played the same computer. Didn't matter if you were left-handed or right-handed, the control panel was at a certain height, you stood up to play the game, and everybody played by the same rules. If you were tall and you had to look down, or you were short and you had to look up. If you didn't like the button so far from the controller, or instead of a joystick, you had a roller wheel, whatever it was, maybe you had a spinning dial, those were the rules of the game, and everybody played by the same rules. So if you could afford more quarters to get more practice in, or you just had a natural inclination, that was what was going to set you apart from the people who thought they were good playing the game versus the people who actually are. So if you were able to go into the arcade and change the settings of the game just specifically for you, then you're not playing by the same rules as everybody else, and you may not be as skilled as you think you are. So I just want to put that out there, because what's the point of playing a game if you're going to cheat? That's just, I don't know, that's playing an entirely different game than everybody else. So yeah, if you're going to play a different game, then you really don't have any competitors in that way. It's pretty easy to win a game where you're only up against yourself. So that being said, we want to take a look at this laptop because it is promoted as a gaming laptop. And I just wanted to preface that before we begin, because the idea of what is gaming is really it's subjective to each individual and how they define it. Some people may say, "Oh, that's not a gaming PC," and others will say, "Wow, that's an amazing price for a gaming PC." At the same time, it's not just a gaming PC. Just because this is promoted as a gaming PC doesn't mean it's not going to be a good value for just using it for everything else, literally. Usually, if a computer's going to be promoted as good at gaming, usually, then everything else is easy by comparison. Because gaming quite often can put quite a load on resources of the computer. If anything's going to slow it down and push it to the edge, it's some of these high-end AAA title games. So if you're not a gamer, but you're looking for a really good, powerful computer to actually do work, if it's promoted as a gaming PC, then the work you want it to do is probably super easy for that type of configuration. So just keep that in mind. And it's one of the reasons why we will continue to revisit machines advertised and promoted as gaming PCs. But just because they're advertised that way doesn't mean it's a gaming PC for you. And if it doesn't mean it's a gaming PC for you, that also doesn't mean it is not, how can I phrase this? That it wouldn't be somebody else's gaming PC simply because they play different games or have a different value of how they determine what gaming is based on what their interests are. So, okay, I hope I got that out of the way, because we're going to see a lot more of this stuff coming up as the internal graphics built into CPUs these days are getting closer and closer to discrete graphics. And the latest AI Strix Halo from AMD, for example, rivals some discrete graphics cards. That's only going to continue. And discrete graphics cards, except for specialty needs, will likely start to decrease, and the sales of which will start to fall through the floor as a lot of gamers realize they don't need that expensive and finicky hardware that's very hot, requires a lot of power. In the next few years, I give it about 3 years, we will likely see the downfall of the discrete graphics card where, yes, they'll still be made and they'll still be available, but very few people will go back to buy them. Not when the internal graphics are catching up, and eventually will surpass them. You watch. All right, that's my prediction. It was interesting on the SSD issue that I told you was a hoax, the Windows update causing, I said it was a hoax. And the person really promoting that, very irresponsibly in my opinion, was Jay's 2 cents. He has left the video up, which I think is a very detrimental, because he's basically got a video saying that this is a problem and we prove it and it's worse than we thought, when in fact he completely misdiagnosed it. He couldn't be further from the truth. He comes back and admits it, but he still keeps the original video up. So if anybody sees that original video and doesn't see the follow-up, he's lying to you, whether intentionally or not, and misleading you and causing fear that's completely unjustifiable. I feel the professional thing to do is remove that video in order to avoid further damage. However, we are in a very fast news cycle online, and it probably will be a few more weeks, and it'll still be there and nobody will watch it anyway. But I find it irresponsible journalism. I'm glad he came back and corrected his mistake. However, he has no idea what the problem is. He doesn't know if it's an AMD problem. He doesn't have a clue. And he didn't have a clue back then. He just associated it, and people believed him. So on the one hand, you know, kudos for coming back and following up with it, proving that by him updating his BIOS, it completely solved his SSD issue. And now he's back to square one, wondering what's going on here. Well, that's fine. It's all well and good to wonder. That's all well and good to speculate, so long as you're very transparent with your audience. That's what you're doing. But when you throw out a title that says, Windows updates breaking SSDs and you should uninstall an update, you're basically telling all of your viewers that they should remain unprotected on the internet. And I don't know, I think there should be accountability to that. I think damages caused by that, you should be able to file some kind of a claim against that harm. Right now, as content creators, we can say anything we want. And if we lie to you and that generates a lot of clicks, we make more money. We are motivated as content creators to pander to the algorithm, and people, they want to see bad news. They want to be scared. So if I make a video that says, beware, this Windows update causes damage, I can promise you that will get me 10 to 100 times more views, and I'll be paid 10 to 100 times more money, versus if I make an honest video telling people the truth, which they don't want to hear, generally speaking. Many of you, especially our members, I know you're here for the truth, but it's getting worse because content creators are getting desperate. The money's getting so bad now, sponsorships have gone away, that whatever you can title a video to get somebody to click on it, no matter what you have to say to draw people in, some people they don't have any scruples. They're just going to hop on that bandwagon and cash that check. And it's only the viewers that have control over whether or not they click on this nonsense, because the minute you click on it, you are basically telling them you're okay with it and to keep doing more. So I hope you consider that when you're clicking on videos. If you want entertainment and you like to be lied to, there's never been more of it in the tech arena right now than I've ever seen in my career. And it's a trend because content creators, they want their videos to be clicked on. They want to make money. So you either can give the people what they want and to be damned with the truth, that will continue to keep you popular, or you can tell them the truth and nobody wants to listen to you anymore because it's not salacious, you know. And I'm just seeing this all over YouTube right now, and we're not going to be a part of it here. Just so you know, this is a safe space. And furthermore, I would encourage you, as I would for any content creator, myself included, that if you think the information you're being told is true and it matters to you, before you go spreading it around, verify it. Look to see for other trusted resources. When you can't trust Tom's Hardware anymore, they're continuing to post gossip. Nimo N continues to post gossip. None of this is factual. This is like tabloids. If you enjoy tabloids, that's the, you know, I'm selling. I'm not selling. I'm offering news. They're offering gossip, and I don't mind if they offer gossip if they put a transparent disclaimer that says, "Hey, we don't know if this is true or not." That's fine. Just be clear about it. But when it's disguised as fact and people believe it, and then they start spreading it to other people and those people believe it, oh boy, 2025 is turning out to be an interesting year. So with that out of the way, let's see, we say hello to everybody joining us in the chat. We'll take a look at the specs on the laptop. I'm really super anxious to get my hands on this because the specs look amazing and the price, well, it's about half of what you might think. Mark Gaines is now a member for 40 months. Holy cow, that's our first 40 I've ever seen. Thank you, Mark. 40 months. Wow. Scott says hello. There's Patrick T, Eddie Casanova. Of course, Mara's hanging out with us. There's Graham48 joining us from St. Louis. And Gary Tatum says hello, along with David Graham and Dan Nelson. Dennis K joining us in the chat. I also see Andy W6AD, Mark Leibowitz, and Thomas MacT. Ben Laird from Scotland says hello. Chris Garrett joins us. And Lou Greenia from Vermont. Spider-Man the Hero says hello. Matthew Burden saying hello. And did I say Mark Baggett? Mark says hello as well. Chris Johnson. And Patrick T. Who else do we have in our chat room? Anthony Pete says hello here in the chat room. Sosa Ribeiro says hello from Uruguay. Welcome in. Viewers all over the world. This is awesome. Elijah52 Dickens joins us, says hello, along with Johnny Weld and Dazzle555. Wild Soul and William Bird say hello. John Lewis joining us from Brazil. Thomas Yeager renews membership. Now a member for 9 months. He says, hello all, happy Friday, TGIF, right on. Yes, indeed, it is Friday, and hopefully, getting closer and closer to that fall weather. Stillman 2000 and Wakar say hello. Andy Kane and Chris Dunn, Scott Messerschmidt, and Aura all joining us in our chat room, along with our friend Rick Lakes saying hello in there. Gary Bickle and Arnold Albert and Jim Kenny. Essential Working Too Hard renews membership now for 24th month of membership. Says hello all and happy Tech Friday. Thank you for that. Thank you for renewing your membership and for being a part of this amazing community. Tony Aindow says hello. And I think I got everybody. I think. All right. So, what are we looking at today? Let me jump over to, where should we start? We'll start at Nimo's homepage. We'll go right to the manufacturer. Let's see how they're promoting this. Then we'll jump over to Amazon and see if it looks any different over there. Should be about the same either way. What we're looking at today is a 15.6-inch laptop, which is model number is called an N159. It features an AMD Ryzen 7 7735HS with a full HD display. Now, as you look down here, you'll see you can order it with 0 gigs of RAM and storage, no operating system, for as little as $500. Or you can have them go ahead and put 16 gigs of RAM for an additional $30. Or you can have them put 32 gigs of RAM for an additional $80, 64 gigs of RAM, and then of course you can also bundle it with an SSD. So if you just want the RAM without the SSD, you can do it that way. And see what it says. AMD 8-core processor with Radeon graphics, does seamless multitasking, 8 cores, 16 threads. It's the 680M GPU. So if you're curious about how the frames per second at what resolutions of the games you're interested in, they're all going to perform pretty much the same, 680M. So once you get that information, you should know what to expect out of it. It's got a 100-watt Type-C power delivery fast charger, and that supports charging all your devices, really, anything Type-C. Up to 64 gigs of RAM is what it can be installed with, DDR5, by the way, and 2 terabyte NVMe storage is basically what they're saying the limit is. There's no such thing as a limit on storage, but you can run into heat issues, and double-sided NVMe's may struggle to fit into certain computers, so they might just be playing it safe here. But anyway, our Nimo laptop features dual-channel memory, supports detachable RAM and SSD. Yeah, so the RAM is not soldered on. Human-centric design combines 15.6 anti-glare display, 85% screen-to-body ratio. It's got a backlit keyboard on it too. Of course, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are all part of that. If we scroll down through this, we can kind of look at some of their marketing materials regarding it has a numeric keypad. It has the fingerprint reader, so you can use passkeys to log into websites. You'll still use a password as a backup way to log in for some reason if your fingerprint doesn't work, or you're logging in from a different computer that doesn't have a fingerprint. So you don't get away from passwords 100%, but most of the time, once you set it, you can then start using your fingerprint on fingerprint-equipped computers and smartphones, provided the website provides support for that, which all the big guys do that. Microsoft, Google, they all use the fingerprint. However, I will say that not everything does. Most of the big stuff does, but it's coming. It's called passkeys. And now when you want to sign into things, you just use your fingerprint, much like what you might already be familiar with on your smartphone. For example, if I want to open up PayPal, or if I want to look at my bank, not only do I have to use my fingerprint to unlock the phone, but then to open up the banking apps, I have to use my fingerprint again individually for each banking app. Should my fingerprint fail, I would then have to default to a password or a secondary form of login. I love that because that's pretty much the way I log in 99.8% of the time now. Backlit keyboard, and there is a webcam shield or a privacy shutter on the webcam, so that way you don't have to worry about is it on or not. Just close the shutter. It's like putting a lens cap on the camera. It's not taking any pictures for sure, regardless if it's on or off. There is a memory card, micro SD card reader, sometimes called a transflash or a TF card. We've got a USB 2.0 that's designed for slower devices like keyboards and mice. USB 3.2, and that's going to be for like a flash drive or external storage, something that you need faster speeds. Your audio jack is a standard 3.5 millimeter audio jack, which can support headphones, microphone, or even a headset. The Kensington lock, if you want to use a steel, basically a bicycle lock that can chain this laptop down with a steel braided cable, that's sold by Kensington or other Kensington compatible locks that are sold at places where computers are sold, like Amazon. They're not expensive, and you can, put one end of it in the laptop and it locks it in, and the other end of it you could loop around something that's immovable, whether that's a table leg or just like you would lock up a bicycle, right? It doesn't do you any good to lock up a bicycle if the device you've locked it to can just be picked up and taken along with the bicycle. Similar concept if you're worried about theft. We have a Type-C Generation 2 USB connector here on the left side of it. That's likely also going to be our power input. Then there's a regular Type-A USB 3.2 Gen 1. We also have an HDMI output and another Type-C Gen 2, which is multifunctional. Well, they both say multifunctional. Okay. And I think, let's see, what else do we have? It's got a 1 hour charge with 5 hours of standby. It's a 54 watt hour battery with up to 9 hours of standby time. 100 watt fast charger. And they're saying they have 30% better battery life using their batteries. They won't overheat and they won't leak. They're using some kind of new battery technology, I guess, that doesn't do that. A little bit about the CPU here, which I'm going to skip forward through. Remember, just because it can game, it can do a lot more than just game. It can get a lot of work done very, very rapidly. Well, you'll be the slow part of it. Let me just put it to you that way. Bring up giant spreadsheets, PDF files, Word documents, write a novel, browse the web, pay your bills, check your email. This thing is lightning quick for regular use case scenario. And then, of course, for entertainment, it's got you covered there as well, with certain limitations of that particular graphics card, which is true of all graphics cards. They're all limited in some way, and all that's pretty much based on price as well. So you can do more if you spend more. Now, this is going to be Wi-Fi 5, which is a bit older. Now, the CPU, the Ryzen 7735, it's a little bit older of a CPU, but that's partly why this laptop is priced as aggressively as it is. If we look at what they sent us, let me grab my glasses and see what the specs are. Nimo has sent us a, somewhere on here it should tell us. I'm not sure. It's got a sticker over it. So I don't know what the RAM and storage are in this. We know it's in dark blue color, and it's an N159B. The B is probably the blue color. But I don't see the specs. I think they put a label over it for some reason. 32, oh, there it is. 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. So what they've sent us, let's jump over to Amazon. 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage. I mean, they're saying this is an $1,800 laptop. $1,900. And that they've got a limited time deal taking 66% off. I'm not sure I agree with that. However, it's definitely worth more than $649. We'd probably be, in my estimation of competing models like this, minus the added warranty that it's assembled here in America, if you take all that out, you're probably looking at around $800 to $900. I mean, you can shop around and compare, but I think we'd all agree at $649.99 with 32 terabytes of DDR5 and 1 terabyte of storage with this processor is a very aggressive price point, including, you've got speakers, you've got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, trackpad, the case, the power supply, the cooler, the operating system, etc., etc. And this model just came out and it's got 4.9 stars. Wow. Had it several weeks, performed, no complaints, no problems with overheating, Quality, sweet for the price, and not to be the same old manufacturer. Nimo way cool. You can trust Nimo. And these are verified purchases we're looking at. These aren't free Vine reviews. Worked great for only 30 days, terrible service. So they gave it 4 stars. Wouldn't you be a little more harsh? What does it say? Amazing computer itself seems a little flimsy, like it needs a stronger structure. Internals are amazing for the price. I initially left a bad review after the touchpad failed, then the keyboard failed. I contacted Nimo, they sent me a replacement fast. That says a lot. No arguing with them over it. They fixed the situation in less than a week. So it looks like they did leave a nasty review and they corrected it, but they didn't fix their title. Okay, that's a little misleading. Incredible battery life, perfect Type-C charging. All right, look, overall people like it. And honestly, if I didn't think it was worth it, if I thought it was there were better values to be had elsewhere, I wouldn't bother to have agreed to do the review. So you know, if I'm doing a review on a product, I'm doing it because it has the promise to be a great bargain for those of our viewers that are in the market for something and they want a good value. All I'm doing by accepting the review is verifying that that lines up. Because if all of the marketing is honest and true, which by the way, it has been with Nimo this whole time we've ever worked with them, but it has not been that way with other manufacturers where there's been false information, whether that was a mistake. I can't tell you what their motivation was, but you know, it's when we get it in our own hands that we verify that everything they're saying is true. And I expect this to be, you know, based on our past experience with Nimo, to live up to exactly what they're saying here. I think this is most likely 100% honest and backed up. You don't get abandoned after the sale. And, you know, they want you to recommend them. They want you to come back and buy more, et cetera, et cetera. So you can understand their motivation. There's no sort of secret to it. They're just trying to build a company with some very strong competitors in this market. And I think they're grossly what's the word? Under. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. But basically, your average content creator isn't covering this manufacturer. They're overlooked, and I don't know why. But, you know, they're missing an opportunity, and for no good reason, so far as I can tell. And so, you know, some content creators won't review unless you pay them. If a company has to pay the reviewer to get them to review, that's no longer a review, that is a commercial. So maybe that's what's going on. Like I said, times are tight on YouTube. Everybody's trying to scrape together pennies to try and keep their channels up. They may not be able to afford to do free reviews, but the minute you have to pay them, it's not a review anymore. Just food for thought. You know, is the content if you're watching a review on YouTube, is the content creator paid? If so, that's not a review. That's what you've got to ask yourself. I went on YouTube looking for this product, and I saw one video that seemed to be created by a keyboard. In other words, it was just a script being read by an AI showing still photographs. And I looked, and that particular channel is posting 5 videos every day of different products, and they're all the same process, where they're feeding the PR information into the computer, they feed the product images into the computer. You don't know who the creator is. It's a hidden name. It's not real. The voice isn't real. And while the information is real, it's just basically reading aloud to you what the manufacturer has on their website. So I guess if you like being read bedtime stories by robots, that's not a review. I was like, what the hell is this? The voice has no personality at all. The Nimo, what did they call it? Nimo. You can often tell AI, it just completely misenunciates, especially pronouns. It just can't pronounce them correctly. So anyway, that's all I found. So we're happy to be the first doing an actual real review on this product. And we got to say thank you and a shout out to our friends at Nimo for continuing to give us these opportunities to show you unique content that other content creators are not showing you for whatever reason. And if you end up buying a Nimo product, or you've ever bought one and you want to tell us about your experience, we'd love to hear from you, whether in our live chat, in our forums, or in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from actual viewers, because you're the only reviewers that really matter. 3D Everything, now a member for 40 months. He says it had to happen too soon, it seems. Well, thank you for being one of our early 40-month supporters here. That is amazing. Mark Leibowitz mentions there's a lot of channels doing the whole AI narration with product images thing on YouTube these days. I've seen it referred to as AI slop. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They're just flooding media, Instagram, everywhere. They're just flooding Facebook Reels with just slop. That's exactly, yep. All right. We're ready to do our unboxing now. See my glasses for a second. So I'm looking here on this label and I'm looking for the specs. And it very clearly states the model is N159. All right, so here we go. Unboxing the Nimo N159. This is how Nimo packs their laptops. You'll see there's a protection for the screen and for the back, so if the box gets squished. And then you've got protection and support on the sides. And one of the things I enjoy the most about Nimo is they don't throw in a bunch of nonsense. In other words, you're not paying for all this extra stuff that most of us are never going to use. What's likely in this box right here is just a power cable and an adapter and nothing else. Let's see. Sometimes we open up, oh, by the way, there's a little push in right there. You stick your finger in there, you should be able to pull that right out. Sometimes other manufacturers include a bunch of hoopla, you know, marketing materials, maybe some really niche accessories that most people won't use. It's all adding to the cost of your laptop. What do you need for your laptop? You need the laptop, you need a power cable, you need a power brick. That's all you should need. Anything more than that, they're not giving you for free. You're paying for it. So Nimo does sell accessories, let's say a la carte, but in the box, you're just going to get what you need. That helps keep the price down, keeps the clutter down, keeps stuff out of e-waste. All right, let's see. Yeah, there's our 100-watt power brick right here. Let's see if I can go over to camera 2. I love it's got their logo on it. A lot of manufacturers, they don't label their power adapters. And then if you separate the power adapter from the device it goes to, good luck figuring it out. Now in this case, it's USB-C, so I guess it doesn't matter. But when we're dealing with barrel connectors, if you plug the wrong adapter into the wrong thing, you could destroy both. And I'm talking beyond repair. So usually with most manufacturers, I'd get a label maker and I'd write where it goes. But with Nimo, they've been thoughtful enough to include their logo, so it's easy to know what this goes to. We have a very long USB-C cable here to provide us power. So if I unravel this, I'm not quite sure how long this cable is. but it's further than my arms can reach, and I appreciate that. All right, so there's our power cable. We'll set that down here. And then all that's left is the laptop. So if we pull this out, let's take out the styrofoam protection. We'll set that down here. There's the laptop right there. Again with the logo on the lid. Also in the box, way down in there, if you can see it, right down here, some documentation. So that's what you're getting. Documentation, cable, power brick, laptop. That's it. Everything you need, nothing you don't. There's that dark blue color. And usually there's a material between the keyboard and the monitor in shipping. I've seen some people keep this. What can happen if you travel a lot, if you're unconsciously kind of squeezing the lid, is the keyboard can make contact with the screen, and over time, anybody who's in a laptop can tell you, you'll get the impressions of the keys, some of the keys, across your screen, and they're permanent. One of the ways they prevent that from happening in shipping is there'll be typically some kind of material between the screen and the keyboard, but it's up to you if you want to keep it and use it if you travel a lot. Most people just throw it away. But if we open this, I'm expecting there to be some protection. And there it is right there. And that's everything. That's the laptop. Let me clear this off of the desk. Put everything in there for now. I'll set that aside so we have some desk space here. And let me bring it up to the screen, bring it up to the camera. And I'll show you what this looks like close up. So here is the lid. We've opened these Nimos before. They're very easy to get open. You're going to remove the screws around the edges and the two in the middle here. And then you'll use like a spudging tool. Sometimes you can even just use a fingernail, and you're going to just pull the bottom off of it. It's a very easy machine to get into, and it's very easy to replace the RAM, the storage, the Wi-Fi, and the battery. They're very easy to get into. The irony is I've seen some $3,000 laptops that are way more difficult to get in than these are. There's all your ports here on one side. Nothing at the back. And then around the other side, just like it was shown in the images we were looking at. These vents here, this is your left and right speaker. And then your cooling fan will be here. All the hot air is going to blow out, I believe, out the back. If we open this up, take a look at the inside. Hold on, it's difficult to do while I'm standing. Got a pretty decent sized touchpad without being ridiculous. That's your fingerprint reader. Up here with your webcam, you've got a little shutter that you can slide open or closed. This is going to be a very difficult thing for the camera to focus on. It sees all this black and it starts to freak out the autofocus. Looks like we have some lights down here. And, you know, you've got yourself a very portable machine. When you get to the bigger screens, that's certainly easier on the eyes, but it will reduce battery life. And it makes the machine heavier to carry around, not quite as convenient. If you're sitting on an airplane, you don't want to try and open up a 17-inch laptop unless you're in first class, or you're going to be sitting there like a Tyrannosaurus Rex trying to type on it. So the 15s, somewhere between 15 and 16, I found those to be the perfect size. The 13s are so small, I can't even read them anymore. And the 17s, as I say, they're too big, they're too heavy. If you've got to walk from, say, one airline gate to another airline gate, boy, does it start getting heavy. So with that, let me get it plugged in and we'll turn it on and we'll do our first boot. We can verify that we have the configuration that they say we're supposed to have, which is 32 gigs and 1 terabyte. And it should be Windows 11 Home. So this is no different than plugging in your cell phone. It's, in fact, this can probably charge your cell phone too. Maybe not at the same time, but you could, in theory, I suppose you could plug your cell phone into the other USB Type-C port while your laptop is on and charge your phone at the same time. All right, if I can just untangle the cable. There we go. Let me plug this in. We'll just plug it in right here, like so. And usually, if you're confused over which of the USB-C should I use, it is nearly universal that, well, it's not necessary that, how can I explain this? On almost, at least on every laptop I've ever seen that supports USB Type-C, the one furthest to the back on the left side is typically the one that powers the laptop. However, on some laptops, it doesn't matter which one you plug into. The reason I'm mentioning this is because this is almost a universal truth, whereas having another USB-C that can also provide power is possible. It's not as common. And if you choose to use the one closer to you, then you're going to have to reach around it if you want to plug anything else into the other USB-C. So that's going to make that, you have to work around it, which is another reason to just go all the way to the the USB-C port furthest to the, closest to the screen, I guess I want to say, towards the back. And when we plug that in, we get a red light right here that's showing battery charging. Now, the first thing I would do if I got anything that takes a battery is charge the battery up before I use it. However, today's battery technology and lithium ion and whatnot, it's not as critical to do that. Whoa, my camera is freaking out. Hold on a second. It's not as critical to charge a battery fully, but it's created such a habit in me. It's just what I do. All right, but you don't have to do that so much anymore. Let's go ahead and turn it on. We have a power button right here. If I push the power button, there's a blue light that comes on right where my finger is here that indicates we have power. Now you can see we get the Nimo logo here on the screen. And we should be going through our first time, our out-of-box setup. I'm curious, usually the HDMI ports on these laptops, they require Windows to load first before the HDMI output will work. But there's one way to know for sure, and that is for me to grab an HDMI cable. Then I don't have to point the camera at the laptop. I can have the video feed go directly out to the capture card for a crystal clear image, so you guys can see it as well as, or even better than I can. So where is my HDMI cable? Am I standing on it? Found it. All right, and HDMI appears to be over here on this side. Just like that. We're at a out-of-box experience Windows 11 home setup screen. Let's see if that output works. Let me jump over here and turn that on. Yes, thank goodness, because I can see, well, I can turn the laptop around to face me now instead of me trying to work backwards. And you guys can see the same screen I'm looking at while it's happening. So, hallelujah. Okay, United States, yes. US, yes. Skip. I don't have internet. Always choose that you don't have internet whenever you're setting up Windows for the first time, whether it's a machine that you built or a machine that you've purchased pre-built. Strongly recommend that you do not plug in the internet or printers or flash drives. Just turn the machine on, go through the setup, make sure all that works. Because if it doesn't work, it'll be real easy to know you got a bad machine. That rarely happens these days, but Murphy's Law. I'm going to leave the password blank here, so it'll just boot right to the desktop. And I'll leave location settings on, and that'll take care of setting the date and time for me and maintaining it during daylight saving, as well as, clocks will lose a few seconds or minutes over time, or they'll gain a few seconds. This just keeps it automated on a regular basis over the internet so that me as a human can focus my energies and focus on other things and I can rely on the fact that my date and time are always set correctly. No reason to be doing that stuff by hand. There's no flashing 12 on this laptop for you to have to set the time. Now, as we go through this first process, when it's done, it's going to take us to the Windows desktop. At that point, I can go ahead and plug it into the network. However, on these thin laptops, they're not wide enough to have an Ethernet port, and most people are going to run them on Wi-Fi anyway. However, I don't want to set this up with Wi-Fi. It's a security issue I'm worried about when I'm making live videos, but furthermore, it takes more time because I have to enter in everything by hand, like the password. Mara likes to set really complex, long passwords, and you know, if I'm sitting at home hooking up a TV or something to the network, it's one thing to sit there and move a remote around 75 times and hopefully don't mistype anything, or I get to do it all over again. But when we're live and on camera, what I prefer to do is just plug it right into my network. So how am I going to do that on a laptop or any machine that doesn't have Ethernet? And it's very simple. For about $10 to $20, depending on the make and model, you can buy a USB to Ethernet adapter. Now they make them in type A USB and in type C. So if I come over here to camera 1, I've got one here. This one is type A to Ethernet, and these sell for anywhere from $9.95 to $24.95, and they sell them as 1 gig, 2.5 gig, 5 gig, and 10 gig. So they do make them in type C as well. I'm going to just plug this into a USB port right over here. Look, all my plugs are on one side. I guess I could have gone over here. Now I've got an Ethernet port. And I only do this, like I said, when I'm live and when I'm doing initial setup. Once I've got initial setup done, I will unplug this. What's great is that Windows automatically detects the driver. And as you'll notice down here on the bottom right corner, right down here, we have the little monitor that shows we have internet, and then all of our icons are propagated here. So the first thing I want to do is go grab Windows Update. So let's go to Settings, and then let's go to Windows Update, and we'll turn on Check for Updates, and then we'll turn this on. While we're waiting, I'll go to Advanced, and I will turn this one on, and this one on, and this one on. Then we can go back. I also want to take a look at my power settings. So I don't want the screen to go to sleep on us while we're live. So I'm going to edit my power plan that when I'm plugged in, I don't want to turn off the display for at least an hour. And I don't want to put the computer to sleep. Well, you know what? It's ready to reboot already. So let's go ahead and restart and let it do what it wants to do here. And we will come back and check for more updates. Once the broadcast is done, and just to be clear with you guys, that I do intend to remove this adapter, and from that point forward, using it privately, I would put it on Wi-Fi at that point. But the only reason I'm not doing it is, again, there are some security and privacy concerns regards to that. And smaller channels probably don't get the harassment and the attention that we get. It's, you know, be careful what you wish for. The more popular you get, the more harassment you'll get. So now that we've come back up to the screen here, I should be able to go back and revisit Windows Update, because what I want to do is take a look at some of the specifications while we're waiting for updates. So once again, I'm going to hit the Windows Update. It's continuing where it left off. We'll check advanced settings, or advanced options, to see if there's any drivers. There is one here. We're going to grab it. Looks like a network adapter, probably for my little USB cable. All right, let that run. While it's running, let's right-click on the Start menu. And we'll go to Device Manager. And I'm just curious who makes the Wi-Fi card on this. So keep in mind, Realtek is the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. And then the USB adapter that I plugged in is a USB Realtek 2.5 gig network adapter. But that's me. That's my adapter. And Mara says we've got email. Thank you, Mara. All right. So with that, let I'm not sure there's anything else we want to check in here, but I do want to check the system properties. I'm going to right click on the start menu and go to system. And in system, we can see the 1 terabyte of storage. The graphics is assigned up to 486 megs of shared RAM. The installed RAM is 32 gigs. This is our processor, the AMD Ryzen 7 7735HS. And we are on Windows 11 Home 24H2. Then you have support information for the company down here. They want you to know how to reach them. A lot of other unfamiliar brand names, let's say, that sell on Amazon and other places, they have no support. They have no contact information. They have no website. They have no drivers. I don't even know how you get support. I really appreciate that Nimo stands proudly behind their products. They don't run and hide like others. And that should tell you a lot about their own faith in their own product. So while we're waiting here, we'll continue to, let me go back to Windows Update and monitor the progress here. And as that is installing, it's moving along quite quickly. Let me jump over to email here and let's see what's going on with what's on your mind. Our friend Charlie Purdy sends an Amazon gift card, and a generous one at that, as always, from Charlie. Thank you so much, Charlie. He says this is for the channel and the community. Right on. Again, thank you so much for continuing to support us. Your friendship, your kindness, and your generosity, well, they're making a big difference in how much we can do and what we can do. And I just, for all of you who show that kind of generosity and support, I can't thank you enough for it. I think I got everybody else here. Okay. So we're still updating over here. While we're waiting, do any of you have any questions that I can answer about Nimo or about the laptop or anything sort of in that genre and related to that in any way? Or do you have experience with Nimo? And if so, was your experience a good one? Would you recommend them? We'd love to hear your thoughts from your experiences. Raphael Bird says hello in the chat. There's Sam Lazar joining us. Mats Olov joins us from Sweden. Always good to see our friends from Sweden hanging out with us. Haven't seen Oystein in a while from Norway. Hope he's okay. Eugene Eldago joins us. Eros Petrovic says hello. Is this laptop enough for Counter-Strike 2? Oh, listen, Counter-Strike 2 doesn't take much. That game, Counter-Strike 2, was released, let's see, Counter-Strike 2. Oh, wait a minute. I guess I'm thinking of the original Counter-Strike because this says Counter-Strike 2 came out in 2023. That's only 2 years ago. Maybe I was thinking of CSGO because that's been really popular. So Counter-Strike 2, will it play Counter-Strike 2? You know, I don't know. I suppose it likely will play it. I don't know what resolutions and frame rates. But you know what I would do is I would say, here's a fun thing you can do. I'll teach you a little something here. If I come back over to, where is my, oh, here I am. If I come over to Copilot, let me show you something here. Let me show you something. Let's jump over to a window capture of Copilot. Hang on, I have to find it. There it is. And let's type will CS2. I'll just type it out. Will Counter-Strike 2 play on Radeon 680M, because that's the GPU we have, right? It will at low to medium settings and lower resolutions like 1080p. And these are your frame rates you can expect. Now, this laptop screen doesn't support 4K, right? Forgot what they say the resolution, full HD, which I believe is 1080. And you're looking at medium to high. It's definitely in the playable range at 30. Ultra would be 24. So the more you crank up the settings, you can see on the very lowest settings, you'd get 38. So clearly not the most ideal for Counter-Strike 2, but yes, it appears it will play that. So there you go. Man, I thought CS2 was like 10 years old. Shows you what I know. All right, let me jump back over here to camera 1. And we're still installing updates here. Almost ready. We'll jump back over to that shortly. Let's see if you guys have some more questions for me that I can try and answer for you. David Graham with a $2 super chat. David says, poor streaming PC, its guts are out and it's blind. Oh, the screen's not working today, huh? Yeah, what can you do? That's why its guts are out, so I have to disconnect the screen and reset it. I'm just about done with this, honestly. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The hardware's fine, processor, RAM, storage, all of that's doing really good. The case is very tight as far as getting things to fit. They don't fit right, but they're all made by Thermaltake with the intention to put them in this case. Very bad design, terrible support, and overpriced. So this may not be on the counter much longer. I may end up, I've got an Intel NUC here that will take this capture card, which is about the same size, and it's a little more interesting to look at. So yeah, it's very disappointing to spend that kind of money. By the way, for what this cost, I could have bought 2 of these and had change left over. All right, let's see. Thank you, David. Scott says, Carey, I got a new Windows key this morning from the new site. Worked very easy. Thank you. It does appear that SCD Keys is back up after their renovation, but I don't see Office. So we're still waiting to hear back from them. Hopefully we'll hear back maybe by next week and see if we can continue where we left off. In the meantime, if anybody does need a Windows or Office key, please email us and we can work behind the scenes. Did I get the wrong graphics card? Andy says 680M. Did I get it wrong? Hold on. Let me just double check. This is why I can't go off my memory. All these numbers all blur together. CPU numbers, SSD numbers, RAM numbers, CPU numbers, GPU numbers. All right. It's getting a little crazy. Let's go to the device manager. Let me check one more time what our graphics card is here. It just says AMD Radeon in the device manager. Let me go take another look at the product page. So let me jump back over to, let's see, over to Amazon. And yeah, because if I don't get that number right, then I'm not giving you the right answers. Where is it? Yeah, it only supports 1080 resolution on the screen, just so we're clear. Yeah, 680M, you are correct. So let me bring up Copilot again. And let's jump back over to Copilot over here. Now, what's great about Copilot is we can continue our conversation. Oh, here we go. This is a very different answer. Thank you for the correction, because wow, that is an extremely different answer. The AMD Radeon 680M built into the Ryzen 6000 series mobile processors, one of the most powerful integrated solutions out there. Here's how it handles Counter-Strike 2. In low graphics settings, you're looking at 100 to 120 frames per second. In medium, 80 to 100. In high, 60 to 80. In ultra, 50. I mean, that's, yeah, borderline. That's exactly what I was going to say. These numbers assume you're running LP DDR5, which you're not. Low power DDR5 would be soldered onto the board. A decent CPU like a Ryzen 7 6800, yet we're above that, right? And even at high settings, CS2 runs smoothly thanks to RDNA 2 architecture. So, wow, thank you for that correction. I had it entered in incorrectly. So I way undersold that, didn't I? At least we figured it out where we're live. Thanks to your help. Yes, it'll run Counter-Strike 2 without a problem. Go back over to the chat. This is still installing over here. Patrick T said, normally I play Second Life on my desktop PC, but started to highly consider this laptop. Now seeing it being reviewed, surely it would run better on my HP Omen, or run better than my HP Omen 15. So I don't know what year your HP Omen 15 is and what graphics card you have, but you could run Copilot and ask it the same question, only instead of asking about how it would perform on Counter-Strike 2, ask, you know, how would that GPU perform on, just like I demonstrated in Copilot, and it should give you all the frame rates so you know what to expect. Hey, there's Frankie B joins us and says hello. Welcome in, Frankie. How are we doing over here? Let's take a look. Almost ready for a reboot, so we'll come back to that here in just a moment. Scott Howard said he loves Nimo. It's a great company with great people. We agree. It's a pleasure to work with the people that we work with are at Nimo. Words are hard. The people we work with at Nimo are absolute pleasure to work with. I wish that when we talk to companies about doing product reviews, they were all as easy to get along with and so cooperative and so quick to respond and so quick to get us the product. Sometimes we deal with companies that wait and wait and wait, and they want all these conditions met, and we tell them no and no and no, and then usually they'll say, okay, we'll do it your way, because otherwise it doesn't get done. And if they want the review, it's got to be done the way we do it. If they don't want it the way we do it, they can ask somebody else to do it. So a lot of times we call them on their bluff, and they say, okay, then they drag their feet shipping it, and no sooner than we get it, when are you going to make the video? We just got it. Sometimes we tell them we haven't even gotten it yet. How can we make a video? We haven't received the product. But other times companies say, no, we have to see your video before you show it to your audience. And if you won't do that, we won't send you the product. That's what Ugreen did to us. And we just used membership money. We went to Amazon, we bought the Ugreen, and we reviewed it. Whether they liked it or not, we did it our way. So one way or another, the companies can work with us, and we'll feature their product as they request. We're showing their product to a very targeted audience. We're making the content. They have no cost to making the content, and they have no cost to airing the content, and they have no cost to figuring out which audience to air the content to, the demographics. We've got that all handled. So whether or not it's something we're going to review anyway, we go out and buy it if the company's difficult, such as the case of Ugreen. When the companies are a pleasure to work with, it may be that we weren't even aware of the company, like Nimo. They introduced themselves to me, and I said, I think that's how it happened. Or I saw something about them that seemed too good to be true, and then we reached out to them, and well, it's been a great relationship ever since. We are ready to reboot over here. If I come back to the screen here, you'll see we've got the restart ready for the Windows updates. And when we update, we can go ahead and I can bring out my utilities flash drive and run Crystal Disk Mark and evaluate what NVMe drive we've got in there. And if you want, we can open this up and take a look at it. I expect it's going to look pretty much like every Nimo we've opened up. It looks like it opens the same. It may even be the same shell on the outside and that they're just changing the components inside. What I like about them is the battery is easily accessible. You don't have to struggle to get the back off. You don't need any special bits like Torx, little teeny tiny micro Torx bits. Just a regular small Phillips head screwdriver, preferably like jeweler size. And the RAM is, I don't know, did they give us 2 8s or 2 16s or 132? I don't know. We'll open it up. We'll look. We can also see the make and model of RAM, the make and model of NVMe drive, and show you how easily accessible it is live on camera. So there's not a whole lot to them as far as like worrying about breaking off antenna wires when you pull the lid off like some manufacturers do. Some manufacturers don't want you opening up their machines. And I don't know that Nimo wants you to open it up, but I think the attitude at Nimo is it's yours and you shouldn't be restricted from opening it. Obviously, if you want peace of mind and you want to make sure you're not going to have any problems, you want them to do it for you. Get it with the RAM and storage. Let them do it. Let it all be under warranty. On the other hand, if you feel technically savvy enough that you would prefer to use your own RAM, use your own storage, install your own operating system, and then download and install the drivers yourself, they're okay with it. They're not going to discourage that. "2005 Jay Sean says, I am left-handed, so a mouse and using WASD doesn't feel right to me. A full 9 key on this laptop is a plus, so I can program it the way I like." Yeah, you can use the 10 key and use that to control your direction in your game, along with typically the mouse is used to point the reticle for where you're aiming to shoot. So usually this is motion of the character in the game, left and right, forward, backward, and then the mouse would be where you're aiming your weapon at the same time with both hands. And I could see, yeah, if you were left-handed, you wouldn't want to go to the opposite end of the keyboard. You want to be over here on this side. Well, no, I take it back. If you're left-handed, would your left hand be controlling, like I'm right-handed, but when I'm gaming, the mouse is in my right hand. So if the mouse was in my left hand, I definitely would want to use WASD because I would be on this side of the keyboard over here with everything being on the left. If I'm on the right, you'd think being on the right, the mouse would be on my right hand, and then I would want to use the keypad the opposite. But everybody's got their preferences. You're not doing anything wrong. I'm just thinking, wouldn't it make more sense for righties to stay to the right and lefties to stay to the left side of the keyboard? But what do I know? All right, we're back up and running. Clear as mud, Carey. Let's go back over to the desktop. We'll check for updates one more time. I do hear the fan running on it. It's not loud, but you can definitely hear the fan is running. Mara said, yeah, she reached out to Nimo. So I must have seen something about Nimo Oh, I remember. I saw a video from about a year ago, and I said, "Who is this company?" And they were really talking about how they're assembled here in the United States. They're easy to work on. They have a double the warranty of most laptop manufacturers. Quality is good, and 90-day return policy. And I said, well, this must be expensive. Everything he just described is expensive. An extra year of warranty is expensive. It adds cost. A 90-day return policy, you got to buffer that with additional expense. You know, you expect to pay a little bit more for that. Insurance is not free. And then assembled in the United States, that sounds like it's going to be expensive. And then I saw the price they were talking about was cheaper than AliExpress. I'm like, how's this even possible? This is too good to be true. No, they're a real company, and this whole thing is real, and they've been in business for a number of years, and we've got one here in front of us to prove it. It was one of those, I got to see this to believe it. And this is now, what, our fourth or fifth one we've looked at. And they're all very consistent in quality and value. All right, so let me come over here, camera one, and let's plug our flash drive in. And then we'll copy some utilities off of here that I need for testing. I like to install VLC. That's an open source media player for music and movies. And I remove media player from Microsoft. It's too spammy for my liking and too finicky. And this is free and it's rock solid. So if you're ever trying to watch something, especially something you've downloaded or listen to some songs that you've downloaded and VLC will not play it, then you're likely dealing with a virus. So if VLC won't play it, don't try to make it play. Find another source for that material. Windows 10 Optimizer, we'll throw that over there. And under our PC testing software, we'll grab Crystal Disk Info. And I'll grab Crystal Disk Mark. And we'll grab HWI and Cinebench R23. Just to get some numbers on this thing. So Cinebench is a CPU test, it's not a graphics test. And this will cause the machine to work exceptionally hard for a 20-minute time period, which is very unrealistic to normal consumer use. However, when it comes to gaming and such, a lot of that's going to be put more on the GPU than the CPU, but it gives us some baseline for which to compare things. I'm not sure how useful those comparisons are in reality, but it gives us some measuring stick. So I'll go ahead and run my utility here real quick just to get it all tuned up. Hit apply, and you'll see a bunch of access denied errors there. That's just turning off indexing. If the file that it's trying to turn off indexing on is currently used by the operating system, it can't do that while the file's in use. I can't change a flat tire while the car is still moving. So in order for all this to take effect, we do need to restart. So we'll go ahead and restart this, and then when it comes back up, we can run Crystal Disk Info, get the make and model of the installed NVMe. We can also run Crystal Disk Mark and get our performance numbers. Followed by that, we can run Cinebench R23, get our numbers there, and then we can open the bottom and take a look on the inside, which I'm pretty sure is going to look very familiar to you if you've seen us open any Nimo laptops before. This does seem to follow the same very thoughtful design process where everything's very modular. You can't say that about many laptops these days. A lot of times they're proprietary, they're glued closed, and they just want you to buy another one after your warranty's out. Nimo's not like that. Now the desktop has come back up. I am done with this flash drive. It's important you leave your little pinky out. All right, let's go to the desktop over here and let's take a look at Crystal Disk Info. Let's start there, because this should tell us what's inside of this laptop without us having to open it. With modern free software tools like this, the days of having to physically open up and look with your eyeballs are behind us. Modern hardware is great, isn't it? We've got a Kingston NV3, and it's got 5 power-ons with 0 hours of use on it. Come over here. It is a Gen 4 drive in a Gen 4 slot. Okay, temperature looks good. Everything's at 100%. So how does it perform? We go over to Crystal Disk Mark. You can download these all. Just use Google. And I download the zip files that are portable versions, so I'm not installing things on customers' computers. Let's hit the all button here, close that window, and we'll see what kind of numbers we get, particularly at the top sequential read and the top sequential write. That will show us, under the best case scenario, the fastest this drive can go. Now it's 6,400 megabytes per second. That is about 1,000 megabytes shy of the highest end Gen 4 drives on the market. And no human being is going to notice 1,000 megabytes per second. It's literally about a half or a quarter of 1 millisecond of difference in loading files. There'll always be somebody who claims they can notice it, but those people need to spend more money. If that's the attitude they've got and the expectations they have, then they should open their wallet to match that. At 6,400, that exceeds my expectations. I'm just being honest. If we get above 5,500, especially around 6,000, I'm happy. 6,400, this may be one of the fastest Kingston NV3s that we've tested. And we'll go ahead and let it do all the other benchmarking tests here on the read side of things. And then it'll go to the write side. And we just leave it alone and let it run uninterrupted to make sure that we're getting accurate numbers here. The only thing is, I don't think my sleep setting's stuck, and I might want to move the mouse a little bit from time to time to keep that screen from sleeping on me. I'll tell you what. Well, let's wait for the write speed report, because those are the two I'm most interested in. I want to know the fastest under the best conditions that this drive can perform. What's the maximum? So the maximum under ideal conditions, this drive can do writes at about 5,700 megabytes per second. The writes are going to traditionally be a bit slower than the reads unless you spend more money on an NVMe drive. And if you do that, then this laptop is not as budget friendly as it appears when you start, nickel and diming a bunch of accessories or add-ons, optional add-ons. So I'm going to come over here and just type edit power plan, and I want to make sure that, that didn't stick before because we had to reboot. So I'm going to set that to 3 hours and put the computer to sleep after 4. How about that? That's only when it's plugged in. When it's on battery, I definitely do want the screen to go to sleep, or rather the screen and the laptop itself, in order to save battery life when I'm traveling. But when it's plugged in on the desk, that's why there's 2 different power plans, one when it's plugged in and one when you're on battery. And you'll notice that only on portable laptops and machines that have batteries. You won't notice that on your desktop. Okay, so that is just about done, and the numbers are fantastic. Like, I wasn't expecting them to be this good, to be honest. But nonetheless, if you gave me one that was a little bit slower and you had me test it as a human being, I would not be able to accurately assess with any sustainable, reliable answer over what's better. It's just milliseconds. So with that test being done, I can save these results. I'll just call it Crystal Disk Mark, and we'll save it as a JPEG file over here on the desktop. We'll keep those results right over here. Then we'll bring up, let's see, hardware info, and we can take a look at our temps and everything here. So HW info 64, and we'll run just the sensors on this. So we'll bring it over here to sensors only and start. All right, so if we scroll down through here, I'm going to look for just a temperature, megahertz, percentages, threads. I see temperatures. And then we'll go over here to, we should see core temperatures with an arrow. There we go. And this will show us all the individual core temperatures that are currently minimum since we started HW Info software to pay attention. And then the maximum it's hit since the software, the HW Info software has been started. The average I'm not interested in. I'm mostly interested in where we're at now and what's the peak that we've hit. Now, under normal circumstance like this, did I just close it? Come on, Carey. On circumstances like this, we aren't going to see much in the way of temps or fan noise because, quite frankly, we're just more or less idling at the desktop. So we want to bring up Cinebench to really work the heck out of that CPU. Again, it's a free download. You can Google it and download the Cinebench R23 benchmark software, and you can run every single test I'm running on your system to see how your system compares. And it's safe, it's secure, it's free, and you don't install it. You just run it portable so that you're not leaving anything behind in your registry. There's nothing to uninstall. So let's go ahead and start this. It's going to warm up for 10 minutes, so you're going to get a countdown here. And while that runs, it's going to heat things up for the next 10 minutes. And usually the first 2 minutes of this are where it gets hottest. So if we start watching over here on this side, scroll this up a little bit, you can start looking at our maximum temps. Now, 100 degrees or getting close to 100 degrees Celsius puts us in the danger zone. So we see our current temps right here, which are currently setting our maximums. We reached a new high score, but this will happen during the first 2 minutes. So we've only gone about 40 seconds here. All this is normal, and I don't see anything to be alerted about. It's okay for the temps to momentarily hit high temps. That's what they're supposed to do. A turbo on a car is not supposed to be running every single time your car starts. It should only run when you're putting a load on the car. All right, so it's not there to run all the time. There's a different piece of hardware for that called a supercharger. But on a turbocharger, it gives you that extra boost when you need it. And in much the same way, CPUs have turbo. And they're supposed to ramp up and ramp down. And the fan noise should also ramp up and ramp down because it generates more heat. It becomes less power efficient. And the important thing is that it doesn't get so hot that the machine shuts off on you and you lose all your work. So even seeing if it were to throttle, that's still being okay as long as it's throttling momentarily and you're not losing the work and the job gets done with success. The problem is if you're throttling constantly, you've underpurchased your machine. In other words, if you were trying to buy a really fast race car and instead you bought the cheapest, sedan you could find at a car lot, that's not a race car. It was never built to be a race car. And if you run it as a race car, it probably isn't going to last very long. That doesn't mean you can't race it, but you wouldn't want to do that regularly or you're going to be putting a lot of money into repairs. And much as that applies to cars, it also applies to computers in that if you are constantly running really resource-intensive tasks where you're hearing that fan constantly, you might have underpurchased for your needs. Now, the one exception to that may be some games. Games can throw a big resource load on a computer, but they're not universal over where the resource load is. If it's on the graphics card, if it's on the CPU, if it's in the RAM, it depends on how they've written the game. And if the machine does run hot when playing that game, you may want to look into something like a laptop cooling stand or a more powerful laptop or reducing some of the settings so it's not working so hard. Also, if you're on batteries, it'll reduce your battery life. You're gaming. If you enjoy gaming, you're not going to enjoy it very long if you've got everything cranked up. Nothing will drain the battery faster than that. But if you're gaming from time to time, and it's not the main purpose of the laptop, it's a recreational thing off to the side, no problems. But if that's primarily what you're looking for is a toy, there are much more expensive laptops that are built to withstand, higher resource loads, larger and more expensive graphics cards that can perform better. And they start usually around 3 times this price, thereabouts, 2 to 3 times, and they go up to 6 times in price if you're
You know, they do make $4,000 gaming laptops if you have the budget for that. And then to have that expectation that you should be able to throw these really intense resource consuming processes on it while having it run cool. You will also expect to have probably a battery life under an hour and a portable heater, basically. So everything I'm seeing here so far, we've gotten past the hot point. We're at 4 minutes into this warm up. The highest temp it's recorded so far looks like 91 degrees Celsius, which is good. That's good. You know, there's no sense in running it slower just to be safe. That means you're not getting everything you paid for out of your CPU. But we wouldn't want it running at 91 degrees or in the 90s 90% of the time. It's just not going to give us the sustainability and reliability over time. That excessive heat is going to cause wear, and that wear will lead to failure, just so you know. But you can see right now what was, if we scroll down these temps, they're all in the 70s right now, and they only momentarily hit the 80s and 90s, and that's exactly what you want it to do. And Mara says we've got email, so let me go and check our email here. And let's see. Our friend Frankie B with an Amazon gift card, and a generous one at that. Thank you, Frankie. Frankie says, here's a little something to say thank you for all you do. The mini PC is working great. It's fast and awesome. Yeah, we sent Frankie a mini PC there, and he's loving it, which is music to my ears. And a very generous Amazon gift card. So again, thank you, Frankie B. Thank you, Charlie Purdy. Thank you, Mark Gaines. Thank you, our friend Buster, Peter Laycock. And another 4.5 minutes over on this test. Let me just check on the chat. Jay Sean says, it says the CPU has a thermal junction of 95. Yeah, that sounds about right. Is it 95? I thought AMD's thermaled at 100. It depends on which AMD, I guess. Because the 8000 series AMD claimed they're supposed to run at 95, which I find unacceptable. And for AMD to suggest that that's normal for that temp to stay at 95, I would not deploy that to a business or a customer, because that's not going to last long. There's going to be problems. You're going to have worn out fans, and your efficiency goes right down the toilet. And it was a big thumbs down for me on 8000 series desktop AMD CPUs that didn't even support Gen 5 NVMe. So I was very disappointed. Nonetheless, the mobile chips are different. So if the thermal junction, and we'll just say that's true, is 95, the hottest we're seeing on this so far is 92. So as long as we stay, honestly, even if we hit 95, as long as it's just for a moment, it's supposed to thermally throttle to keep it from overheating. But if all it's doing is thermally throttling and staying there, you're going to end up with a system that doesn't perform well. It's going to be loud. You're going to hear your fans. You're going to be generating a lot more heat. You're going to lose all your efficiency. And the system's likely not going to last as long over the years. It's just going to wear out. It'd be like if you got in a car and you have a tachometer in your car. It's got this part over here that's all red. The idea is it's okay for the needle to bounce into the red, but you don't keep it there. And the only time you should ever see that is, let's say you're revving it up, not sitting in a driveway, but you're driving it, you want to pass somebody, and you've got a little window of time that you can scoot in there, and maybe you're trying to avoid an accident and you need to scoot out of the way as quickly as possible so your foot hits the floor. That's when everything spools up, right? If your turbo wasn't activated, it sure will be now. On top of that, you might see your tachometer bounce into that red. But if you keep it in that red for too long, your engine goes kablooey. And that's a several $1,000 repair. And you're going to be without a car for a while, or at least without that one. And much the same way thermal throttling works, in such that it's okay to thermal throttle, but you don't want to do it too often or for too long. Hopefully, you don't do it at all. Like if you talk to a mechanic about that red line on your tachometer, they'll say, Hopefully you don't touch that line, ever. But if you do just touch it briefly, it's okay. It's just not a good habit to get into, because sooner or later, if you do that often, you're likely going to be bringing that car in for a significant repair on a catastrophic engine failure. So if that's the case, maybe you should have bought a faster car if that's what you need. That's all I'm saying. A lot of this is just people not buying the appropriate tool to accomplish what it is they set out to. They make lots of different computers. A variety exists because there are multiple different budgets at multiple different levels depending on what you need the computer to do. Some are designed to do some tasks better than others, and some are designed to do things cheaper than others. You just got to pick what's right for you. There's no one size fits all here. The good news is, if you wanted to buy any of these Nimo laptops to see for yourself, they do have a 90-day return policy. If you buy them from Amazon, you can test drive it. You can order a Nimo laptop on Amazon, probably get it tomorrow, if not the next day, and have 30 days of free test driving. And if you don't like your test drive, you just put it all back in the box. Put everything back in the box that it came with, put the packing back in, to put it all back in the way you got it. And Amazon will allow you, they will permit you to return that to Amazon at no expense. You don't have to pay for return shipping. And when they receive it and they verified, you didn't throw a brick in there, you're not a scammer, that you did send back everything, then they'll give you a 100% refund. So you have nothing to risk. Instead of asking, how will it do this or how will it do that, I would suggest you go and get one, whether you buy it directly from Nimo or Amazon, where you have that peace of mind that you can evaluate it based on your values, because I don't know your values. I have no idea what you think is good. And you can give me examples, but that doesn't tell me squat. That's way oversimplifying the complexities of ownership, from the way the keyboard feels to how the laptop feels and looks, the brightness of the screen. Everybody's different. And you need to figure out, does that machine at that price offer you value? It may offer somebody else value and not you, but the only way you and that other person will know isn't by watching videos. It's by getting one in your hands with the peace of mind to say, okay, worst case scenario, I'm sending it back. So if that's the condition that you're buying under, and I cannot emphasize this enough, save all your packing material. When we're done with our reviews with Nimo, we send these laptops back to Nimo, and I will put everything back in the box except for that bag I had to tear. Everything goes back in the box exactly the way I took it out. One, I don't need the extra trash. And two, it's just thoughtful that if there's nothing wrong with the laptop, that it can be resold at a discounted price as a returned item for an even greater value to somebody else. Furthermore, you're kind of a thief if you don't return everything, and that includes the packing, that includes the box. So if you're not mindful of where you're setting the stuff, don't plan on returning it, or expect there to be some sort of a restocking fee to replace the materials you did not include. Most of the time, Amazon looks the other way, but they're getting stricter on that because they've been really taken advantage of by scammers, and it's costing them a lot of money. Now, if I look over here at our results, we've got a score of 10,243 on our multi-core CPU test. Let's go ahead and start the single core test. And once again, we'll monitor our temperatures here. The first 2 minutes is usually when it gets hottest. Our maximum temp achieved is 92.2 on the core, but the actual cores themselves, it looks like the hottest core is core 4. Now, when we do the single core test, it's literally only using one of these cores. So whichever one is hot is probably the one it's using right now. I'm going to guess it's core 1 based on that 85-degree current temperature. But you notice in a blink of an eye, it's dropping to 66, and it's back up to 83, 84, then 73. See how fast that temperature goes up and down? That is ideal. That's what we want to see. And then we're just continuing to maintain the highest temperature reported on this row. And it's on core 4 clearly right now. So we'll go ahead and let that run. It's got 9 minutes to run. I definitely can hear the fans cranking up, and they're not loud. I mean, they're definitely there. They're not silent, but I don't have to talk over them. And then with that, let me get back over to camera 1. We'll let that test run. We'll grab a screen share of those results, save it to the desktop. Then we can shut it down and take the back off, and I'll show you its guts. See what it's made of. Literally. Owlcatcher thinks a 680M being a gaming laptop is a bit optimistic. Well, it depends on what you consider to be gaming. This thing will play League of Legends without a problem. We already said it's going to play Counter-Strike 2, no problem. What's the problem? Are those not games? That's why I say each individual. Somebody might say, well, I went to Taco Bell, but that's not real Mexican food. Okay. You know, I don't know how to talk to people like that. Well, don't eat there. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't like it, nobody's forcing you to buy it. Or if you think you don't like the way it's described, in what way is it not accurate? You're saying it can't play those games? This is the problem when using that term gaming PC. It has so many different definitions that an individual that values gaming at a different level, they define it differently, doesn't mean that the manufacturer is misleading. Absolutely not. If you think you won't eat at Taco Bell because it's not real Mexican food, then don't eat there. But that doesn't mean it's not real Mexican food just because to you it isn't. And I want to be very clear on this. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you are right only for you and nobody else. Period. Unless you hang around a group of friends with similar value systems where you can preach to your own choir, the general public is not getting on board behind you any more than you're getting on board behind them. That's the beauty of the PC market. If you want to have the same thing everybody else has and define it all one way, that's what consoles are for. You can get a PlayStation 5. You can get an Xbox. So if that's what you want, you shouldn't be looking at a laptop. So the key issue here when dealing with people who don't get their expectations met is trying to determine if they had reasonable expectations to begin with. So when somebody makes a comment like that, what goes through my head is, compared to what? You understand what I'm saying? If this laptop, everything you see here is $649, and you say that's not good enough, for whatever reason, then what is good enough at $649? If you're aware of something that sells for the same or less, but outperforms this, why are you keeping that a secret? But if what you're saying is a $650 laptop doesn't hold a candle to a $1,300 laptop, well, duh. That's why they have different prices. I don't know. I don't know what people are thinking, honestly. But sincerely, if you do know of a better gaming laptop at this price, I wish you wouldn't keep that a secret. So to make that kind of an accusation, based on what? Compared to what? What are we comparing? 650 to 1,000? Keep that in mind when you're seeing comments from people that they may be looking at just a very shallow side of it without consideration of the money that's being spent. So they're saying, well, you know, if you spend a lot more money, you can get a lot more of what they would call a gaming computer. And no one's arguing that. You're not wrong. All right, how are we doing over here? Progressing along, and keep an eye on it. You can buy as much power as you can afford. But if you think that you can spend less and get more power, please share the secret with the rest of us. I'd like to have, let me think, a Dodge Hellcat, but I want to pay the regular V6 Dodge Challenger price. I mean, they can tell me how to do that. And I mean, I want it brand new with a warranty. Sean said overclocking CPU helped games back in the day. Well, all the overclocking is happening automatically for you these days. The technology has evolved to a point where human beings no longer need to exert the manual manipulation of internal settings that were very complex for most end users. Now overclocking is happening on its own, and the system is giving you everything it can give you safely within defined parameters set by the engineers to ensure longevity and reliability without overkill on your cooling. I mean, I've seen people build a $600 computer and then throw a $1,000 GPU in it and then upgrade their cooler to overclock it and spend another $400 or $500 on an EKWB custom cooling loop, which is insane. So at the end of the day, the main heart of the system is minimal, and then they overclock it to an extreme where you get a few percentage points more, but you have to put on an extreme cooler at extreme expense so that you can then have this extremely powerful graphics card. It's very impractical. It's something somebody having fun and has money and time might enjoy doing as a project. But for the rest of the world, for most of us, we can't afford that. We don't have the technical knowledge. And the difference it makes in performance is outside of benchmarks, almost unnoticeable. So these days, the modern BIOSes, they set all this for you. You can just leave it alone, and you will have the fastest computer over time. You might temporarily be able to boost that, but you'll likely end up with crashes and premature failure and wear. So basically, you've got the know-it-all expert who overclocks everything, spends all this money, and has a system that they burned out their GPU now, and it's not under warranty because they caused it. It's $1,000 for a new one. In the meantime, their grandmother has the exact same computer, has left it at factory settings, and grandma's computer works perfectly fine today as it did the day it was purchased. Now let me ask you, who has the faster computer now? You got to consider consequences of your actions, and if you're okay with that, knock yourself out. But if you think you're immune from consequences, you must live on a different reality than the rest of us. So set your expectations and don't be surprised. But like I said, these days the systems do all the overclocking on their own. You don't need to intervene, nor should you. You can, but you shouldn't. All right, I think I've drilled that one in pretty good, right? Let's get back over here, see how we're performing with the benchmark here. We're at, what is it, the last minute of the test? Maximum temp so far, it's probably just on core 4. 91, so it hasn't gotten any hotter. It's definitely keeping itself below 91 is what it appears, or certainly below 92. If I look here at 92.2, I don't know how long they were at those temperatures, but very momentarily, and still below 95. So we don't want to be up here for a long period of time. Otherwise, like I said, over time, that can cause early and premature degradation. But we also don't want to stay so far from it that there's no point in having it if we're not using it. So if the CPU has more it can give us, but you're afraid to use that extra because you're going the exact opposite as an overclocker, and you want to keep it slower to keep it cool and keep it reliable, then you bought too much. What's the point of buying it if you're not going to use it? It's the same as not having it. This is what we call balance. You get to use it a little bit, but not too much. And if you find yourself in a situation where you're really not using it, you probably overbought. And if you find yourself in a situation where you're constantly in those higher temps, you underpurchased for your needs. It's not the computer's fault. You made a bad purchasing decision. And once we can kind of work through those user-related problems, we end up with a happy customer. But that's why I love the 30-day returns that Amazon offers. I mean, if you can't figure out if you need it within 30 days, then just buy it from Nimo, and now you can decide for 90 days. So, and Nimo would like to make it right for you. So if you're saying, I don't like this, I want to return it, they're going to want to know why, what's wrong. You say, well, it does this or does that. They're going to say, well, we've got a machine that can do that. And it's probably more money. But if you want, you can send that back for full credit. We can send you this other one that's better equipped to your expectations. They'll work with you to try and, they want you to be happy, but they have to understand what's making you unhappy. Amazon, on the other hand, they don't do that. Amazon says, I don't care why you're returning it. If you're within 30 days, just send it back and we'll give you a refund. That's it. They don't care. They're not going to try and help you make a purchasing decision. If your first purchasing decision was bad, as far as Amazon's concerned, there's your money, try again or don't. They don't care. Nimo would like to keep you as a customer. They're going to make an effort to find out what they can do to make it right, even if it means you're going to have to, they're not going to give you extra for free, but they can take back and use as a credit towards something more appropriate to your expectations, keeping you within that Nimo family and warranty, and having that support should you need it in the future might be worth considering, because there's not many other manufacturers that do that that I'm aware of. And that's why I'm so pleased to be able to talk about Nimo as often as we have been, because when I saw a video about them, that video was a year old. So, I mean, I'm already a year behind. I should have been introducing this brand to you over a year ago. I didn't know about it. Now, if I didn't know about it, what are the odds any of you did? And hence my motivation. Those big manufacturers like Dell and HP, they can pay for all this marketing. Lenovo, they can slap marketing everywhere you look, pop-ups. Nimo is a smaller company. They got to work harder to earn your dollar. And if they lose a customer that's upset, that's going to impact their bottom line much more than Dell or HP or Lenovo, where you could come or go. They didn't even know you were there. You're a drop in a bucket. The smaller manufacturers will often offer you better service, better value, lower prices, at least if they want to grow. And, you know, LG, that company that makes TVs and refrigerators, back in the 80s, they were considered a generic cheap brand called Gold Star or Lucky Gold Star. Today, they're a well-respected brand that people consider high-end, but back in the 80s, they were considered the cheap stuff. Is that Nimo's future? Will they be considered right up there at the top? And if so, let me tell you, LG TV's got to be a lot more money. They're not the discount brand they used to be. Barry Klein joins us and says hello. Welcome into Barry. And Peter from the Netherlands says hello. Just looking through your comments, if there's other questions I can answer. Comparing the laptop to anything else, I'd have to know how much money we're talking about spending. If you want to compare fairly this laptop to other laptops of the same price, and then tell me why this laptop is better or worse than that, I'd be interested in your thoughts. But it just randomly picks objects with no consideration for how much those objects cost isn't really comparing the same thing. You could say McDonald's sells meat, and this fancy steakhouse also sells meat, might even have come from the same cow. But you can't really compare them, especially you got to keep in mind the price. If you won't keep in mind the price, you're just not reasonable. All right, so Peter with a €1 super chat. Thank you, Peter. Can I finally test out 21:9 displays? There's no point in me testing a display, a keyboard, speakers, or headphones, mice. There's no point in it. What you see is unique to your own eyes. You're making an assumption that when you and I look at something, we see the same thing. And I would argue we probably don't see the same thing. Probably in most cases, just the angle at which you're viewing it is different than my angle. As a result, because this is so subjective to each individual and how sensitive they are to brightness and colors and sharpness, price and warranty, desk space and size, it would be pointless. It would be absolutely pointless for me to review things that are measured only subjectively. You need to just look at it for yourself. Look at the price, look at the warranty, look at the screen size, look at the availability. All those things that are important to you, I need to look at the things that are important to me. I guarantee you these things do not align. We'll have some overlap, but it would be a waste of time to make any suggestion to recommend a monitor for anybody I don't really know well. Same is true with headphones, speakers, keyboards, mice, anything that has a feel to it. It's very personal. So again, my recommendation for you is to find something you like. And if you go through 3 or 4 or 5 monitors before you find one you like, you can keep buying them and return them on Amazon, the ones that are supported that way on Amazon. And then if you want to come back and report to us what your personal preferences are in your experience, that might be relatable to a few audience members. But I don't do those reviews for that reason. I have shown some monitors that I thought were a really good value, but not that they were high-end monitors or special aspect ratios. I couldn't tell you what nits of brightness they had or their contrast ratio. I don't know. I don't care. None of that stuff matters to me. If you want to talk about tech minutia, I'm not your guy. So when it comes to like my customers wanting monitors, I advise my customers to go to Best Buy or go to a local store and look at them. Look at the size, look at the price, look at the warranty. Now, if they want me to buy them wholesale on their behalf because they're buying, a dozen or more, they just need to tell me which make and model. That's it. One customer wanted a 4K NEC monitor, like $2,000. I said, I don't sell those. I don't support those. What do you mean? I mean that I don't sell them and I don't support them. So you can go to the store or go on Amazon and buy any monitor you want and plug it into your computer, but I can't help you with it. That's between you and the manufacturer and the retailer. So the customer ends up, they had one employee that was particular, and that employee needed something better than everybody else. That employee was also about 20 years old. And that employee had icons on their screen about the size of my fingernail. And they had 2 of them side by side. I can't read it. I couldn't even service that computer. He also password protected me out of it. And I told the boss, I said, look, I'm not touching that computer. The person at that computer seems to know more than me. If they call me, I'll help them, but I'm not doing any, that's out of the contract. We're not doing that one. So I would work on a 4K monitor, don't get me wrong, but I need to change the resolution so I can see it. And this kid had it set so teeny tiny, it looked like fine print on a medicine bottle. And I'm not going to aggravate myself with that. If anything, connecting to it remotely so I can get a scaled version. Even on my screen, my bigger screen, I can't see his whole screen. I have to scroll left and up and down. What an additional amount of work I had to do. So when he password protected it and locked me out of it, I was good. You're out. You're on your own, kid. And he was the only one in the office with that. And when he left the office, the boss said, take your monitors with you because nobody here wants them. The boss is in his 70s. He can't see anything. That tiny, it's just very selfish behavior. But that's what he liked and that's what he wanted. And so that boss accommodated him. But I didn't provide it, I didn't recommend it, and I didn't support it. All right, if we come back over here, our final results here, and then there's probably some other information, voltages and things as we scroll down. I'll scroll through this and you guys can play the video back and, you know, hit the space bar to pause it if you want to read any of these results. I'm not really interested in any of this personally. I'm really just in it for the temps. Go all the way up to the top and then come back down to where we were. And then what I'll do is I'll hit the print screen button, which is, where is print screen? We have a Copilot button. Delete, insert, airplane mode, multi-monitor setup, keyboard backlight, volume up, volume down, bring up the calculator, screen brightness, sleep mode, function lock, escape. Okay. Sometimes when we do these live reviews, we run into some surprises. There does appear to be, there's a, on the function F10 key, there's a symbol of a monitor. I don't know if that's print screen. Nothing says print screen. That's usually on the top right of your keyboard. It's not on the keypad. It's not there. I wonder what this F10 does. You tell you what, let's do it this way. Let's type in snipping tool, new, go full screen. There it is. That's one way to work around it. And then we'll save this. So we'll do save. Put it on the desktop. Cinebench R23. Save it as a JPEG. Save. It's not liking me calling it that. Let's try it again. Cinebench R23 results. Save. Now I can close this, close this, close this. Where did my results go? By default, when we use the snipping tool, everything should be under pictures and then screenshots. So I suppose I can just drag it out and do it this way. I don't know where my... Did I put it in a folder? Is that what happened? Yeah, it's right here. I don't know why that happened. All right, so we got it. Just take that duplicate out of there. So now if I bring this up, I can immediately see my results. Take it full screen to read it. And then I have that as a permanent record, so I don't have to ask myself, did I ever do that? Now we can shut it down and turn it off, and I'll show you what the inside looks like. I'm waiting for the blue power light to go off. That will show me that the machine is off. It just now went off. Now, before I open anything up, I want to make sure everything is unplugged. So out with the HDMI and the USB Ethernet, done with that, and our charging cable. Bring this around, and again, we're going to take out the screws along the front. There's 4, then there's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along the back, and then 2 in the center. Sorry, there's 4 in the center, 1 on each side. So that's 4, 8, 13 screws. These are standard Phillips head, very tiny Phillips head screws. So I'm going to grab my Natch toolkit right here. And this gives me a variety to pick from. I also like the iFixit toolkit, but this gives me a ton more a variety for a fraction of the price. So I'll get my handle, and I think maybe this one right here is what we used before. Lock that bad boy in there. Let's see if that fits. Oh yeah. Now some of these screws may be longer than others, and the technique I use, everybody's got their own technique, by the way. I'm just sharing with you the way I do it. This is how I like to do it. And I will just take them out and set them down exactly in the order I remove them. Then I don't have to worry about which screw goes where. Sometimes they're all the same, but typically the screws on the hinges can be longer, the screws at the front can be shorter, and it varies from one laptop manufacturer to another one. And as I take them out, going from my right to my left, I set them from right to left. When I go to the next row, I start a new row. When I go to the bottom row, for me, it's the bottom row for me is the front of the laptop here, and I just start different rows. It's a very easy way. As long as you don't knock everything off your desk, you're good to go. And I prefer that over, say, a magnetic tray, or I like seeing the order in which they came out. That way I reassemble it back with confidence. So if you're wondering why I don't use a metal tray, or I don't use one of those little grid things, to me, it's like asking me why I still have training wheels on my bicycle. Like, I don't, because I consider that to be amateurish. But listen, that's just me. That's just the way I see it. Doesn't mean I'm right. That is a much longer screw coming out of the middle here. But yeah, there's kind of an ego thing involved in that. Oh, little baby needs a screw tray. Oh, isn't that sweet? Listen, I was raised as a tech in a different time, okay? You were gauged and judged on that stuff, and it's just stuck with me all these years. But if you want to use a magnetic tray, just don't tell me about it and I won't tease you. All right, one there. I'm just giving you guys a hard time. Everybody has their own way. If you want me to respect your way, I expect the reciprocal, that feeling to be reciprocal, basically. Expect it in return. All right. 2 more to go. One here. Guess this tip is not very magnetized. I think they give you a magnetizer right in here. Is that what that is? I think one's a magnetizer and one's a demagnetizer. Maybe those are aluminum screws, or I'm doing something wrong. Either way, when I'm spending more time than... It's like you're running something over the vacuum cleaner, won't pick up. Like a paper clip, and you pick up the paper clip and look at it, put it back on the ground and run over it with the vacuum cleaner a few more times. Like, well, now it's in your hands. Why are you even trying to put it in the vacuum cleaner? Throw it in the trash can. What's wrong with you? No, I'm going to put it back down on the ground and keep running the vacuum cleaner over it. Okay, that's all the screws. Now, in theory, with a spudger tool or just being careful, maybe we can find a seam somewhere. And if we can't find a seam, usually my go-to for finding seams is the rear hinge. Like, I feel a lip right here that I can get my fingers under. And if I use my fingers, I can feel it. If I use a spudger tool, it's a little numb for me. And this is not coming up. I mean, something's really holding it in, which may suggest that it's locked in this side and that the front has to come out first and then the back, because these have always been very easy traditionally for me to open. So let me just try a corner and come down the side here. That makes me nervous because they're not normally this tight. And I'm afraid of the clips that are in here. I don't want to damage any of them. I'm just making sure I haven't missed any screws. Everything's out. And if I come around to the other side, it does seem like, you know, I can get my fingers in there without a tool, which is cool, but I can't take it too far. So rather than potentially damage our brand new laptop, what I'll do is use a spudging tool. And I have those like in the iFixit toolkits. A guitar pick can work, a credit card or a store gift card can work. So this one is just, I've got several different iFixit toolkits. This one was in reach. That's the only reason I picked this one over others. Many of the iFixit toolkits have spudgers. Look at how nice and neat I put everything back where it belongs. Good for me. You'd never even know this was used. Yeah, there we go. Now we have all these plastic tools, including a little suction cup if you're taking a screen off of something, which I've never used. Yeah, this is a great all-in-one toolkit. Metal spudger, tweezers, this little spudging device here, which is pretty handy. I would prefer to use something plastic like this. These look like guitar picks, and they're intended to get scored up and damaged, and you throw them away, and that's why you get so many of them. And you can buy just these as replacements as well. So if we come around, I don't know where we'd start. There's a seam right in here. And I'm just trying to figure out where I can get in it. It does appear that I have made some successful separation with my fingers. If so, then all I have to do very easily is slip the spudging tool in there and slide it forward, and hopefully that will push in on any sort of clips that are holding this in place without breaking those clips. I think this may be, for whatever reason, oh, there it goes, I just heard it click. So what I'm doing, and I guess you probably can't see it too well, is I'm running the spudging tool, I'm sliding it, I'm giving it a little twist, and what I'm trying to do is with my other hand, I'm keeping what I've separated from closing again. So I'm just holding it open. And it puts a little bit of pressure. And then put the spudger in there. Try and identify where the clip is based on what part of this plastic is not coming up. Wherever that is where your clip is. And if you can get over it and push down or away, because we don't know if the clip face is in or out, we want to make sure we're going the right way. So what I'm finding is pointing the spudger rather towards me. The clips are on the back lid here, and they're clipped in to the edges of the laptop external frame, the outside frame. And what I'm trying to do is bend the outside frame away, because the clips are really just a couple millimeters tall. Rather than try and force the clip, what we're trying to do is the thing the clip is locked into is we want to pull the thing away so the clips, can I explain this? The clip is locked under pressure. And if the clip was on this side of the laptop, we'd be going the other way. We want to unlock the clip by moving the thing it's clipped into away with the spudging tool rather than trying to force the clip away. So when I get in under this, what I'm looking to do is pull this lip up so that this lid no longer has anything to attach to, and then it just falls open without trying to use brute force and potentially break the clips. And you'll find as you progress, things get a little easier as things become a lot more flexible. So I've got this whole section here, if you look now at my progress, completely opened. And what that's going to do is that's going to make it a lot easier for me to then run my finger instead of the spudger. I'm trying to do this so I can show you. And I can feel it. See what I'm doing? Now even here, where it's clipped on, we want to push away with this plastic spudger, whatever it's clipped onto. And at the same time, we don't want to accidentally push down on this and relock it back in place. So I can see, just looking at it, right where there's got to be a clip, right? You can just tell, if I move it this way, there's got to be a clip right about here. So if I put the spudger over there, and we move the spudger away, see how I'm moving it away? That should give us enough play to unlatch it. The other things you'll see people do is they slide the spudger forward. And the problem I have with sliding the spudger forward is you may inadvertently break the clip, because instead of moving the thing the clip's hooked onto, you're forcing the clip off of it. And then, of course, the other thing you can do is you can simply continue to try and finesse it with your fingers, being very careful not to exert too much pressure. The problem is, how do you tell somebody how much pressure is too much pressure? Well, I suppose if you hear it crack or it breaks, that was too much pressure. So if you don't want to take that risk and you want to be more certain that you're not applying too much pressure, then the strongest advice I can give you is to try to separate the two seams, and it's either got to go in or it's got to go out. And when I do this backwards so you guys can watch me, you have no idea how difficult this is right now, because I can't really see. This is all based on feel, and I know there's something there and I can't see what it is. In times like that, I want to just maybe try the other side and come at it. Let me see if I can now get the back off. Don't stubbornly work on one side. If you're not making progress and you feel like you're going to have to use a lot more force, I recommend you play it safe. So right here, we have another clip. And if I push in on that clip, it should release. Yep, and it did. And then if we slide it forward, we can feel the next clip. And if your spudger is too flexible, it may not give you enough pressure to push the clips in. But I can see the clip, and I'm pushing straight down on it. There's another one over here. And normally I'd recommend you put a towel down or something so you don't scratch up your brand new laptop against the surface of your table or scratch up your table. Okay, so I have unlatched all of that back all the way to this corner. And usually by now, it's just a matter of a little bit of finessing. Look at that. And then whatever is sticking right here, it's still sticking. Something is really latched on there good. And it appears to be that I have to come in towards me on a clip that appears to be right around, get it in the seam. There it is. Ta-da! And look, nothing's attached to the back of this, and I can't stress this enough how important this is. We've got a thermal pad here for an NVMe drive, and there's no antennas attached, there's no fans attached, so we're not worried about ripping those off when this comes off suddenly. So I try to be extra gentle when it's a new model of laptop or one that I'm not familiar with. Okay, so what's inside? Unfortunately, we're not in dual channel mode. This is both good and bad. We have one RAM module right here, And this RAM module represents 32 gigs of RAM. Well, why is that good? Well, what that means is if we want to add another 32 gigs of RAM, we only have to buy one more matching module, and we've doubled our RAM. Why it's bad is if we leave it stock, it's not running as fast as 216s. 216s run faster than 132. However, whether or not a human being can notice it, it depends on the human being. So for upgrade purposes, I would prefer to have one stick personally, because I know I'm going to add another 32. And it's cheaper for me to add 132 than to buy, if these were both 16, I'd have to buy two 32s. That would cost twice as much money. Again, if you don't like that, you can order this without memory. You can order this bare bones and put your own memory in it and not buy it at all. Don't buy that memory. This memory is made by ADATA. That's our Kingston NVMe drive. There's our CMOS battery. I'm looking to see if there's any room in here for a second NVMe, and I do not see. Oh, wait a minute. Nope. I don't think so. I think just one storage drive is all this laptop affords us. And I only see thermal tape here. I am a little curious. It appears that there's a piece of tape that thermal tape is supposed to sit on, and it's off by about a ½ inch. Does that still line up, or does it need to be moved? Take a look. The easy solution for this, by the way, would be to simply remove the thermal tape from here and place it on the drive. Common sense, right? And then when we put the lid back on, then that'll automatically align like it should. Oops. All right, let me bring this up to the close-up camera. Let's go back widescreen here, and let me show you. So there's your cooling fan for your CPU, GPU, APU, and the CMOS battery there. And you can see the, so I'm going to come around this way. There's our ports, right? The Kensington lock locks into the frame, the metal frame, so that the laptop isn't being locked in by plastic. Battery is easily replaceable, as you can see here. Couple of screws and a connector. On each side we have speakers. That's what the speakers look like. Our RAM is here. Our NVMe I just covered with thermal tape. Other side. Still trying to get this to focus. Not having much luck. There it goes. Where's my thumbnail? Should it be something like this? I don't know. All right. So anyway, super easy to get into. Where's my Wi-Fi on here? Usually that's upgradable. Let me just check while I'm in here. This Wi-Fi is not upgradable. So the Wi-Fi is soldered onto the board right there. What that means is if you decide you wanted Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 7, you could buy a wireless USB 6 or wireless USB 7 USB adapter and plug it in, and your upgrade is done. Just so you know. Doesn't involve having to open the computer, potentially breaking the antenna wires. So this isn't the worst thing in the world. It'd be nice if it were upgradable, but it's not the most common thing people upgrade, to be honest. Wi-Fi 5 is still relatively fast. If it was anything less than Wi-Fi 5, I'd be disappointed. That is a bare minimum for me today. If customers have Wi-Fi 5 or above, I do not recommend upgrades at this time. Most people will not see a difference to Wi-Fi 6. Some might, but then there's 6E and 7, and it's got to be a fraction, a tiny little fraction that will notice any difference. In most cases, their internet doesn't even run that fast. Now that will likely change in the future, but for now, 6E and 7 are expensive, and unless somebody specifically needs it, I don't recommend it. That's why, as far as I'm concerned, Wi-Fi 5 is probably good enough for this machine, and if it isn't, again, you could choose a different computer that's better equipped for your needs and expectations, or you can simply buy any manufacturer of USB Wi-Fi NIC. They sell them all over the place, and it's literally a plug-and-play solution. You might have to load a driver, and then you're done. So I did expect that to be removable, so I'm a little surprised, but it's hard to complain at this price point for everything you're getting. All right, any other questions that you guys might have for me before I button this up? And then that's probably going to wrap it up for today's video. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions before we wrap it up. Now, I do want you to know Nimo has sent us, they have a very unique option that I'll do another day, but it's basically a series of laptop that they sell with a 17-inch screen or the 15.6-inch screen. It's internally the same specs, same everything. The only difference between them is the screen size. So I will review those two side by side since they're identical. And then you can decide if you want the bigger screen or the smaller screen, and then of course they're priced accordingly. But that's a very interesting option to consider. I don't know many manufacturers that will offer the exact same laptop with only a bigger screen. And Nimo is unique in that as well, and they can also be ordered bare bones either way as well. So we've got that to look forward to. I don't know, maybe Sunday, I'm not sure yet, but we do have them, and they are on the agenda. Barry Klein, now a member for 40 months. Right on. Thank you, Barry. He says, what do you know? Another month's membership, says the optimist. And another month closer to death, says the pessimist. With apologies to Pink Floyd. Thank you, Barry. Oh, wow, these 40-month members, that's amazing. I certainly appreciate you guys sticking with me all this time. Peter submits a €1 super chat from the Netherlands. Thank you, Peter. What does the cover look like where the M.2's contact? Yeah, I can bring the cover up and show you. There's not a whole lot to see, but let me bring it around. It's a fair question. You're going to notice that the cover is mostly all plastic. You can see where the NVMe drive lines up right here. Appears to be like a thin metal heat spreader. Then you've got some shielding here, some shielding along where the external connectors are. And right here, we have a little piece of foam right there for something. I don't know. Maybe it's to prevent any sort of rattle by the battery. But the battery's screwed in. I'm not sure why that's there. But yeah, there you go. Nothing much to it. These are all the little clips I was telling you about not breaking. And that's why you don't just want to pry it off. When it's new and the plastic's flexible, you'll be more likely successful than as it ages and the plastic becomes brittle, you'll be less likely successful without suffering some cracks and damages to those clips. I mean, the screws are in there anyway, so The clips may be a little bit of overkill, but it helps keep those seams nice and tight. Andy says, thanks, Mr. Holzman and Ms. Marlena. Thank you, Andy. Owlcatcher wants to know if I find it unusual with regards to the CMOS battery being so visible. No, I mean, I can open any computer and show you the CMOS battery. It's pretty unusual that it's not obvious to me, but if you have an untrained eye and you don't have a lot of experience, you might find that finding those CMOS batteries a challenge. And you know, a benefit to the folks over at Nimo, whether or not that's done with intention, I can't say. Did they purposely place it there and make it yellow so it would be more easily found? This isn't something that normally would be changed for about 6 years at its earliest, so I'm not quite sure. You know, it's something that isn't a frequently changed part. So because of that, making sure it's easy to access or get to, it's not that important. Some people will run their laptop for 6 years and get rid of it, and the battery's still good. Now this battery, on the other hand, this one's much more critical. And the idea that this is also very easily accessible, given the price point of this laptop, I've certainly, and I'm sure you have too, seen major name brands where the batteries are not easily accessible like this. So everything about Nimo's laptops, everyone we've looked at, has universally been very open and very modular. With regards to preferences over the size or speed of your NVMe drive, or the amount of RAM and single channel versus dual channel, those are all personal preferences. And not many manufacturers I'm aware of will let you buy one without that equipment. You can put your own NVMe in it. You can put your own RAM in it. You provide it. Bring your own RAM, bring your own memory, and bring your own operating system and do your install, and then get the drivers. And Nimo will make the drivers are available to download from Nimo. So they're not going to make you do a treasure hunt like some other manufacturers. But I guarantee you, you're going to be spending a lot more money than the rest of us who get it already pre-configured. But if you're that particular, then obviously you've got the money to afford that. None of these things are required from my perspective. I have no issue, no reservations recommending this laptop to real clients. If I have a client that's that particular, they're probably not my client, because what do they need me for? But no, I don't see anything unusual about that. When have I ever had a problem finding a CMOS battery? I'm sure it's happened, but it's pretty uncommon. So that does not stand out to me as anything unusual. They're usually pretty obvious. But again, I've been working on computers for 34 years. Maybe it's just obvious to me. And I know this is obvious. I know what you're saying. Is this more obvious than others? To me, it isn't. That's all I'm trying to say. No. But at the same time, I would also expect nothing less from Nimo, because everything is obvious. They don't hide anything. And this battery, this has got a very thin wire that appears to be running all the way over here. Very delicate little wire. So you can't just go and get an ordinary battery and replace that. I mean, I guess if you had soldering tools, you could take the tape off, desolder the ends of the wires. I don't know what battery that is. It does not look like a 2032. That looks like a different. But regardless, this laptop would probably be 6 years old before you'd have to do that. And then I would just reach out to Nimo and just order a battery from them. I'm sure they have them. And I'm sure it's not proprietary. Whatever design they're using is probably sold at Amazon or on eBay. My only concern would be the length of cable is very long for a CMOS battery. The CMOS battery cables that are sealed like this are normally about, 3-4 inches at the most. This one's running at least twice that. And it is a very delicate, thin wire. I appreciate the question. Anything else? Barry said Mara is being quiet today. Oh, she's probably in the test kitchen whipping up something. She might be. Hard for me to know while I'm over here. I guess I'm gonna, I didn't damage the spudger at all, but like I said, they are made and designed to be kind of scored up. And when they're scored up, they're just throw them away and you buy replacements. And then I'm just gonna put this back here for next time. And I got all my spares I haven't touched. So I take care of all my tools. And after the show, that'll get put back where it goes. We buy all those tools, by the way. iFixit has no idea who I am. I did reach out to them and ask for sponsorship, and they said, that's cute. Look at the, when you grow up and you get big enough, maybe we'll sponsor you. It's maybe not exactly what they said, but that's what I read. Okay. Someday when I grow up. All right, with that, they do make good tools, and they're expensive, and they're worth it. But this Nanch kit is even really, really good, and it's cheaper because you're not paying the iFixit tax. Eugene Odago, Carey, do you know where the use of the word brick for a dead motherboard came from? Well, the technical engineering side of me says it's a brick in the sense that it's a doorstop. You could better use this to build a wall than you could to use it as a computer. In much the same way people would say it's a paperweight. It's another expression when we're using to describe the usefulness or the lack of usefulness of something. If somebody thought that you as a human being weren't very useful, they'd say you'd make a better paperweight than a person, right? It's an insult. So in much the same way as a paperweight, the term brick, it's the same thing. You can use a brick as a doorstop, as a paperweight. It's all kind of interchangeable. But no, I don't know the official side of it because it just makes common sense to me. I never thought about it. It's very, the inference is pretty clear to me. Am I missing something? Do you know something I don't? Now, computer bug, on the other hand, when that term came out, it was because of a moth, a dead moth, was short-circuiting a circuit in one of the computers. Was it at Berkeley? It was at one of the colleges, MIT maybe? Maybe it was MIT. And they opened up the computer to find out why it wasn't working, and there was a dead moth inside. So the reason the computer didn't work is it had a bug in it. Seriously, Google it. All right, I guess I can start putting this back together and still give you guys some time if you have any questions. I just hope you're not asking me any questions about what's inside of it after I put this lid back on. Got my eye on you. Don't you do it. Jason Wyrick says, can you link the least expensive toolkit? So they're not all the same. You're asking me if I can link apples and oranges and bananas and pears. It depends what you need a toolkit to do. All the iFixit toolkits, some have a variety of tools that can, do more things. Some are designed for mobile, like laptops. Some are designed for smartphone and tablet work. Some of them are designed to be a one-size-fits-all big toolkit, and then of course they're priced accordingly. I don't think you can go wrong with any of them personally. It's just, if you're not working on laptops, why buy the laptop kit or the kit that contains the additional laptop tools? On the other hand, the Manta toolkit is the $60 toolkit I usually use, but that's mostly for opening up things that doesn't have any spudgers. And a lot of people don't know this, but iFixit has a refurbished side of their website. And I don't know what a refurbished tool is, but it's cheaper. If somebody said, what's the difference between the brand new toolkit from... Hold on. Too many words. If somebody said, let me try again. if somebody said, Carey, what's the difference between the iFixit refurbished toolkit versus the new one, I'd say about $15. If I jump over here, though, boy, I can get my voice back. I'm going to just go to Google and type in iFixit toolkit, and I'll type in the word refurbished. And if I, man, if I bring up the screen capture here, you see here, iFixit Essential Electronics Toolkit Refurbished. So we click on that link, that takes us directly to iFixit's website. And under toolkits, they have an entirely refurbished kit. So this one here is very similar to what I was using. It's a little bit of everything, but I've got a lot more than this in mine. And if you look at the details, tell you what's included. And I think there's a master menu, one more menu up. This is a specific refurbished toolkit. Let's go to toolkits. Come on, not gonna work. There it goes. Exclusives, drivers and wrenches, soldering and wiring, micro soldering. Is it gonna be under exclusives? Yeah, it'll say refurbished. It's not in its own aisle. You have to kind of look around for it, and this stuff changes around. This is like $6 off. This one's like $4 off. But we get to the expensive one like the Manta that's like $60. And if you can find one of those refurbed, it can save you quite a bit of money. This one's $31.95. That's about $8 off. If we scroll down, and all these have a lifetime warranty from iFixit as well. The next page. Yeah, I don't see the Manta in there. There's a keyboard servicing kit. The Marlin is the precision drivers. I have that one as well. This is $4 off at $15.99. Watch those prices in red. And if you don't see what you want, look daily, because this will change quite frequently. This one is discounted 20% off, so they have a sale going on all these units with the red tag. And then watch for the word refurbished as well. That can save you some money. And if you want to see all the toolkits, there are 33 to choose from. So I'm not going to link to 33 toolkits, but you're welcome to shop around and look through and see and decide. And yeah, buy directly from iFixit if you want. They'll ship it for free if your order's $75 or more. All right, we're back over here and back over here. Gary Tatum says, a man is dedicated when he gets choked up over his tools. Yeah, I think I might be shedding a tear. It's a beautiful thing. All right, start putting things together. Again, if you have any questions for me, yeah, please do ask. Charlie Purdy said he's used a few guitar picks on an older laptop. Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, another squirrel moment. If we come back over here to Amazon, and I'll just search for a guitar pick punch. They sell a punching tool to make your own guitar picks. And there's a variety to choose from and a variety of thickness of materials, some of which come with the punch tool. It's just like a hole punch. And it will punch out a guitar pick for you, which, what do you know, looks an awful lot like the spudging tool I was just using. So if I'm somebody that's opening a lot of plastic clipped devices and I'm going through the spudging tools, to buy them from iFixit is the most expensive way I could do it. If I could buy one of these punching tools and just punch out what I want at the thickness I want it, heck, if I want to, I could put my logo on it and customize them, just like a rock star. And of course, the littler units probably require a lot more force to, to clench them closed. So you find one with a longer leverage, probably is a lot easier to press through. These are the materials. So you can buy the materials in different designs, colors, and thicknesses. And while it's not specifically designed as a spudger, it's a spudger. By any other name, that's a spudger. You can make them yourself. Roll your own. Just in case you didn't know, that's been available for some time. So I'm just listening for those clicks. Anything I miss, you'll hear it as I tighten the screw, but the screws will go in with much less resistance if everything is lined up properly, which if they're not clipped, if the panel isn't clipped in, it's just going to be a little off to the side. And that means I can cross thread the screw, or I have to really tighten hard on the screw until it sort of forces the alignment and then it clicks. So best to do make an effort to click it back in and then put the screws in. I would not say, well, why should I do that when I tighten the screws? It'll click in all by itself. Yeah, good luck with that plan. All right, so I had it facing this way, and it doesn't matter if I start front to back, there's no particular order, but if I want to put it back kind of in the opposite that I took it apart, I'll start with the last row first. We do see a little bit of Loctite on these as well, which is good. Don't over tighten these screws. You want to make sure that they're just a little past snug. So what I'm feeling for as I tighten is just that resistance, and I just give it maybe another 1/8 or 1/10 of a turn where it feels like, okay, that's not going to come loose. But at the same time, it's not so tight that when I have to open this up next time, I'm not struggling and potentially camming out and stripping out the head of the screw trying to get it out. There's no reason to put that in that tight. Now these two long screws, they go right in the middle. And the other thing you can do is just don't tighten the screws down at all until they're all in, and then go around it and just double check that they're all sort of feeling about the same level of tightness. Because no matter how much we tighten them now, as we tighten these screws here, these will likely be loose. They'll become loose. So regardless, we want to go back over this once all the screws are in and just double check them for how much tension they're under. Again, these long screws are going to go in on the hinges. It's a lot of support, and they're going to get a lot of wear and tear opening and closing the screen over the weeks and months and years ahead. So we definitely want to make sure those are in good, but again, not so tight that it's going to make it difficult or frustrating to open it back up again. You definitely don't want to leave them loose at all. That much I can tell you for sure. And by the way, should they come loose while you're using the laptop, you'll know when you pick it up because you don't normally feel the screws. So if you pick it up one day and you're feeling a screw, that screw's not all the way in. Tighten it before you lose it. With all the screws in there now, I'm just going to go around. I'm getting maybe I don't know how much of a turn, then not much. If this was a clock, I'm moving it by about 3 minutes. Two to 3 minutes. I'm barely moving it, but it does feel snug. And I could tighten them more if I wanted to. but I'm not a glutton for punishment. I also wouldn't want to crack the plastic. I don't want to be my own worst enemy here. So you've got to show a little bit of consideration to how much stress you might be placing on the components, not only for the sake of potentially cracking the component, but also, as I mentioned, when you got to take it apart and you can't get those screws to turn, that's on you. And that's why they have Loctite on these screws, so you don't have to tighten them that tight. Once they're in there, the Loctite should hold it in place. Now, if we didn't break it, I should be able to just open this up and turn it back on and boot us back into Windows. Now, when I open the lid, you'll see that nothing happens. I have to press the power button. The blue light comes on here, and then we should get the logo on the screen, and we're all good to go. And while that's booting, I should feel confident. I don't have to fix anything, that I did it all right. Pretty easy too. Like, as far as the kind of work that I've done on other laptops, I wish they were all that easy. Wish they were all that cheap too. There we go. We could probably take a quick look at the BIOS if you want to see what it looks like. I don't think there's much in there to see. I'm sure it's a graphical, a text BIOS and not a graphical one. But let's restart, and then I'll start pressing, I don't know, what do you think it is, delete maybe? So I'm just waiting on it to restart. Delete, delete, delete. Did I miss it? Did not work for me. Is this one of those that requires the escape key? I don't know. But what I can do, I can either look in the directions, I can run Copilot, or I could simply just go to our Windows Update, go to Settings, here, and then Windows Update, and then I will go to Advanced, then I will go to Recovery, and then I will go to Advanced Startup and Restart Now, and Restart Now. And what that's going to do is that's going to bring up our safety menu. And that'll give us the option to boot from a USB drive if we want to try to run a system restore or repair. There's a few other options. And so what I want to do is just say restart into the BIOS. And I can do this universally on any Windows 11 computer, regardless of whatever keys need to be pressed. This is an alternate way to do it. It involves a lot of clicks, but it's always the same, and I can count on that. So I'm going to go over here to troubleshoot right down here. And then I'm going to get a troubleshoot menu. Do I want to reset the PC or advanced options? I want advanced options. And then I have all these options. And this one right here says UEFI firmware settings. I'll click on that. And it says click here to restart into the UEFI. And now when it reboots without having to press any key at a certain time, it'll just restart into the BIOS like it just did. And I'm not going to get HDMI out on this, but you can see it's a pretty standard BIOS in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sections. There's not a whole lot for you to manipulate, nor should there be any reason you'd want to. But it's in there, and that's what it looks like. All right, I think that's going to wrap it up for me for today. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. And Andy's saying it's F2. Yeah, who cares, right? I mean, if this was my machine and I was going to live with it every day, I would get to know it. But this is hi, how are you? Have a nice day. We're on to the next one. But understand that information is available. There is a manual. And what we're doing here is just a review and overview. And when we're doing so many different machines, the one true thing on all of them is if the basic, delete key or whatever isn't working, I'm not hitting it on time, I can always 100% of the time get in there with that. And that's why I'm showing that to you, so that you know that too. If you're ever working on an unfamiliar computer, or you can't remember, or your timing's just off, This will nail it every single time, 100% of the time. So I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me today, and a special shout out and a thank you for those contributions. We had some very nice, generous contributions from Frankie B and Charlie Purdy, also from Mark Gaines and our friend Buster, Peter Laycock. And we can't thank you guys enough for your support. Also, the other day, we received a generous gift card from our friend Paul Gray, and I want to give a special shout out and thank you to Paul. A lot of times we get these gift cards and generosities when we're live. So, you know, it's really surprising to me when I'm checking my email in the evening and I see an Amazon gift card come in on a show, a day I didn't even do a show. And it's like, wow, you know, I want to say thank you, and I almost forgot. So thanks to all of you. Thank you for all the members and all those 40-month members now. We're at 40 months. Oh, man, wow. The guys have stuck with me that long. That's amazing. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. A thank you, of course, to our friends at Nimo for submitting this to us, allowing us to review it our way. Is there any discount codes or anything on this, Mara?
Yeah, it's included in the notes.
So they have discount codes. Be sure and read our video notes. The links are there as well. We have our free forums at CareyHolzman.boards.net if you want to come hang out with the general population at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's completely free. You want to post a story, share your build, tell us all about yourself, whatever. It's an anything goes. Keep it family friendly. It's a great place to hang out. Also, you can email us if you want to. Send us email directly. It's at showcasecreate@gmail.com. And we always look forward to hearing from you guys. If you're not getting responses, check your spam. Sometimes we are responding and people, they're not getting their messages. They're not getting our replies. So there's two reasons why people don't get replies from us. One is they're not typing the correct email address in, and two, we had one gentleman who had their reply to address wrong. So they had their email set up incorrectly. But worst case scenario, if there's any difficulty, hit the forums, because there you can leave a public message and we can talk to you there as well. The email's more for private matters. You want to buy something, you want something behind the scenes you want to discuss with us, that's what the email's for. If you're looking for community help or you want to share a story, that's what the forums are for. And of course, when we're live, hopefully we keep our conversation on topic for the video. If we're doing an Ask Me Anything, then of course Ask Me Anything. And if we're doing a review, hopefully we're on topic with these related items. And I try my best to stay on top of it, but sometimes I can't resist the bait. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thank you to Mara for all the work she does in the background, doing all of our channel administration. She sets all this up with Nimo. She arranges on the returns, all of it, plus the thumbnails, the descriptions. She makes sure you guys have all the correct links and discount codes. And she's the one that primarily answers that email right there. So that's, unless it involves me, you'll get a much faster answer from her. And probably praised a lot more professionally than I tend to just cut right to the chase. Some people are put off by that. So she does a fantastic job at that, and certainly glad that she's handling it. And if there's anything that needs my attention, then she will get my information and then she will respond based on what how I guide her in those scenarios. Most of the time she doesn't need that guidance, but sometimes she's not sure and she checks with me, Anyway, the result of that is it means we can answer a lot more emails than I ever could have before, because I never had the time. And we certainly enjoy hearing from you guys. You're not bothering us by reaching out. And I can't thank the members enough, because they're basically our sponsors. One of my last videos, I checked on the revenue, and it earned 0.00014 of a penny for every view it got. And of that, YouTube will take 45%. So unless we can get a couple 100,000 views, individual views are no longer paying the bills. But the memberships are, and of course, more than the bills, we have this amazing community, which you don't have to pay to be a part of, as long as you're a kind supportive individual, we'd love to see you hang out, you know. But we just would love to make more content and to make fancier content, and we're just stuck within a budget. Otherwise, you know, trying to find a sponsorship and selling out to some corporation that we have to be beholden to read their scripts and preach their praises, honestly, I don't think I want to make videos like that. So without our memberships and without the generosity of many of our viewers, you have to know that this channel would have been gone a year ago. We would have already run out of money. Pretty much right after Studio C, that took it out of us. All the expense that came up unexpectedly. And the sponsors kind of dried up and went away for everybody on YouTube, unless we're willing to promote video games like on your cell phone and battery chargers for Apple devices, little tiny nickel and dime stuff that, yeah, I don't want to do it. So because of you guys, I don't have to. So thank you for that. And we'll look forward to seeing you certainly on Sunday. I'm not sure if we're going to do the other 2 Nimo laptops. If you'd like to see them sooner rather than later, let me know in the comments. If you have any experiences with Nimo you want to share, for better or for worse, I'd love to see those in the comments so we can all, you know, get somebody else's opinion besides my own. You know, how do you guys know that there's not some deal going on behind the scenes? I mean, I'm telling you there isn't, and I'm telling you I really do like this. And I can tell you that I very much appreciate that Nimo keeps including us in all these new releases. But you might be skeptical and say, well, maybe there's something else. Well, then you tell me. What do you think? What's your experience like? We'd love to hear from you. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. I hope you enjoy your weekend. I should be back on Sunday. And like I said, just not sure if that content will be the Nimo or not. You tell me. Until next time, bye for now.